Another interesting one today, man. Who would have ever thought that they would see Jay-Z not only in the Diddy situation, but also in the Jeffrey Epstein situation, man? This is crazy. But it's most definitely real, man. They done got your boy Jay-Z caught up in the Epstein files. Him and Pusha T, guys. I wonder how Pusha T taking all of this, considering, that he went at Drake, calling him some derogatory words, in regards to situations like this. And now he's got himself caught up in a similar situation with proof. Yeah, man, they saying that Jay-Z and Pusha T were in the Epstein files, guys. You can't make this stuff up. This is crazy. What's up, Tim? Can you hear me out there? Let me know if y'all can hear me out there. Can y'all hear me? Let me know if y'all can hear me out there, man. Can y'all hear me out there, man? This is one for the record books, man. Jay-Z and Pusha T are in the Epstein files, guys. Can y'all hear me? Type of yes, we can hear you. Sound good, something. Let me know y'all can hear me out there. Yeah, because we about to get off into this. Not only that, we find out that Trump was mentioned over 1,000 times in the Epstein files. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, we find out that the Clintons wasn't gonna go along with testifying on what they know. They had to be pressured. They had to be subpoenaed. Then they ignored it, and then they changed their minds when Congress was gonna file charges on them, guys. Double tap that screen, get the likes up. You know what I'm saying? Get those likes all the way up. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen or click the three dots, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. What's up, Lady Swag? What's up, Tim? What's up, Bob, man? What's up, man? What do y'all think about this, man? Jay-Z done got caught up in the Epstein files, man. And not only them and Trump, but one of the people who was saying expose it, and said that Trump was in the Epstein files, turns out he's in the Epstein files too. I'm talking about none other than Elon Musk, guys. Everybody wanted a piece of Trump back then. I hear you, you know what I'm saying? Continue to double tap that screen, guys. Get the likes up. You know what I'm saying? Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. Gina, I see you down there, man. You know what I'm saying? I see you down there. Jay-Z too. Yes, man. Jay-Z too. Him and Pusha T. You know what I'm saying? We got to get the likes up. We ain't got enough likes in the building yet. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots and hit that thumbs up, guys. I wouldn't be telling you to hit the like button if it did not help the channel. That's why I'm telling you to hit that like button to help out my channel. I ain't asked you for not $1. All I ask is that you double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button. Or dots and hit that thumbs up, man. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Yeah, man. Epstein, Jay-Z and the Epstein files, guys. You can't make this up. You can't make it up. Yeah, the picture is most definitely AI. But the things that I'm about to show you are most definitely real. If you don't believe me, go look it up. Jay-Z is most definitely in the Epstein files, him and Pusha T. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got enough likes yet. Let's get those likes up. I'm about to show you the paperwork. You know what I'm saying? We about to see the paperwork live and live in color that says that Jay-Z is in the Epstein files. Double tap that screen, guys. Get the likes up. Yeah, we're 176 people deep and only got 9 likes, man. It ain't hard. All you got to do is double tap your screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. Let's get the likes up, guys. Man, y'all coming through talking about the picture being AI like I don't know that. We know that the picture that you seeing on your screen is AI right now. But these documents most definitely ain't AI that I'm about to show you. So let's stop the nonsense. This is most definitely real. Go do your own research. You will see that Jay-Z is in the Epstein file. Stop playing with me. I don't play well. I deport you faster than Trump deporting immigrants. You know what I'm saying? I don't need you to come here and tell me what's not real. I know what it is. You don't. I ain't got all day to be waiting on y'all to hit that like button. I see a lot of y'all just want to sit up in my bushes and get this good content, but we most definitely got to get those likes up. Double tap that screen so we can get the show rolling, man. If you're on a mobile device, double tap your screen. That's how you hit the like button, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, man. The story is from '96 with Jay-Z and Epstein. Let's talk about it. It's most definitely real. They want it to be fake, but it's real. Yeah, they want it to be fake, but it's the truth. I know you hate it. You know, I said the same thing. Dang, how did Jay-Z get himself involved in Epstein and Diddy? You know what I'm saying? He was in the Diddy thing. He fought that tooth and nail, you know, basically to get his name cleared. I wonder what he's gonna do about this, you know, with this Epstein situation. Is he gonna go live and address it? You know, is he gonna get his lawyers involved like he did when he got brought up in the Diddy situation, or is he just gonna let this ride? I'm just saying. Yes, this is in the new release files. Those 3 million documents they just released. This is off inside of those documents. You know, hold on real quick. Let me turn this music off. Hold up. Let's turn that off. Let's get the likes up though. All right. So without further ado, because I ain't got all night to, you know, be wrestling with y'all over what's real and what's not. Let's just get to it. You know what I'm saying? Jay-Z and Pusha T are most definitely involved in the Epstein files, and they got brought in by Harvey Weinstein, or Weinstein, however you say his name. Let's check this out, guys. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. Without further ado, let's go.
Breaking news, Jay-Z might be going to jail, y'all. Jay-Z was in the Epstein files. Alleged victim claims she was abducted and woke up in a room with Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein? Here is the official document, and you can see.
Oh, there go that paperwork. There go that paperwork. Now go type it in at justice.gov. Go type it in for yourself if you don't believe that it's real. All of you, oh, this is AI. Oh, AI this, AI that. Yeah, this paperwork ain't AI. This is in the new filings, the new dump that they just did of the 3 million documents. He most definitely off in there. If you think this is cap, my bad. If you think this is cap, go type it in on justice.gov. Go type it in. It's going to pop up. It's going to show you that Jay-Z is most definitely in here along with Pusha T. Let's go.
Right here from her home, whence she later awoke in the presence of Harvey Weinstein and Sean Carter, Jay-Z, while Weinstein had inserted his fingers into blank blank. Believed she was in Epstein's mansion in Florida. Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein in a three-way? Just like my previous post about Donald Trump, these are allegations, not facts. But I am hearing that this might turn into an investigation. We will talk about this on the Trend Out Loud show, link in bio. And do not forget to catch us on YouTube, Twitch, or Kick, weekdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live. Breaking news, Jay-Z might be going to jail, y'all. Jay-Z was in the Epstein files. Alleged victim claims she was abducted and woke up in a room with Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein? Here is the official document, and you can.
There go that paperwork for all of you non-believers. Go type it in at justice.gov, and I guarantee you it's going to pop up, and it's going to tell you exactly what it was, man. You know, this is crazy, man. Breaking news. Jay-Z caught up in the Epstein files. Hold on, I got another one where a lady spoke on this as well. Hold up, give me a second. Where's she at? Right here. Let's go.
Can I just say this makes him look 1,000 times more guilty? Why would you choose to wipe your Instagram account under these circumstances? Again, that you might as well just get online right now and just be like, I'm guilty, bro. Like, there's no other reason for him to do that other than essentially
So it says Jay-Z wipes his Instagram account after being named in the Epstein files. The alleged victim claims she woke up in a room with Harvey Weinstein, or Weinstein, however you say his name, and Jay-Z. She also identifies rapper Pusha T as a handler of the Epstein victims, guys. Yeah, this is in the paperwork. This is official. You know, go type it in at justice.gov, you know, and it'll most definitely pop up.
passively admitting that he's guilty. Apparently, the alleged victim says that she woke up in a room with both Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein. And I'll say this again, all of these people need to go to jail. And the craziest thing about American society and culture is if you're wealthy enough, you don't go to jail. Almost never. Because they all have enough money to get lawyers that somehow...
What I'm saying is true, is that he's in the Epstein files. I'm not saying that he really did nothing wrong. But he's most definitely in there, and the lady made allegations towards him within the Epstein files. So that put Jay-Z in the Epstein files. Maybe he didn't do nothing. Maybe she lying on him. But that don't neglect the fact that his name and Pusha T name, along with Harvey Weinstein name, or however you say his name, is most definitely in those documents. He is in the Epstein files.
Slip them out of every single thing. It's just a very, very disturbing element of human society that is totally unacceptable. And I know it's something that the vast majority of us want to change. We want to see that end. We don't want to be living by separate rules anymore. And we certainly don't want to be led by...
Okay, lady, we don't want to be listening to you. I just put her up there so y'all know that this is real. Once again, I'm going to go back to Buddy with the paperwork. Feel free, to blow it up.
Can I just say this makes him look...
That's the wrong one. That's the woman. I don't want her. Him.
Breaking news. Jay-Z might be going to...
Look at this top up here. If you blow it up on your screen, it says in approximately 1996, I can't even see it, as an unknown man abducted from her home, hold on, I can't see it. When she later awoke in whatever. Yeah, but there goes some of it right there. I can't see it that good. It's too small for me. Feel free to blow it up on your end.
Jail, y'all. Jay-Z was in the Epstein files. Alleged victim claims she was abducted and woke up in a room with Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein? Here is the official document, and you can see right...
I just wanted to put it right there for the paperwork, So there go the official paperwork right there. For all of you non-believers who don't think that his name is in there, this is AI, somebody made it up, it's not real, it's propaganda, it's false. Go type it in on justice.gov, type in Jay-Z, and it's gonna pop up. It's gonna pop up for you. You're gonna see that it's in the official paper. Let's get Unilisted Vid or whatever your name is, the dude that just typed AI, let's get him right up out of here. This is not AI, sir. You know what I'm saying? Let's get you right up out of here. Congratulations, sir. You just got deported. You know what I'm saying? We'll holler at you. We got no time for people like you over here to be playing with me, because I'm not playing with you. You just got deported. Congratulations. His name is most definitely in there. Yeah. There go the paperwork right there. Feel free to blow it up on your end. You'll most definitely be able to see that Jay-Z's name and the account of what this man is saying is 100% true, because he's reading it off the official paperwork, concerning Jay-Z, guys. All right. So just like I told y'all, there's other stuff going on within this whole situation as well when it comes to Trump, man. They saying Trump name was in there over 1,000 times, guys. Trump responded. Check this out.
Democratic lawmakers and groups of survivors of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein right now blasting the Trump administration over their partial release of additional Epstein files. Of course, we know this. It comes after the DOJ released tens of thousands of pages that include photos and videos and court records, all related to Jeffrey Epstein. But millions of pages are still yet to be released to the public. Some of those files include mentions of prominent figures like the President of the United States. He's never been charged with any wrongdoing. This is what he had to say when asked about the latest release of documents.
This is his response, guys.
Sir, Mr. President, what did you think of the latest release of Epstein files, and do you think your critics will be satisfied with?
Well, they should be, because it looked like this guy Wolf, who's a writer, was conspiring with Epstein to do harm to me. And I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very very important people.
So, he said this guy named Wolf was conspiring with Epstein to try to bring him down. Trump says it looks like they're going to be bringing charges against the Wolf guy. Let's go.
Well, that not only does it absolve me,
Shout out to Lovely Star for copping that membership.
the opposite of what people were hoping, the radical left, that Wolf was a third-rate writer, was conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to hurt me.
What's up, CB?
Politically or otherwise, and that came through loud and clear. So we'll probably sue Wolf on that.
So let's go live to Washington and CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland. Scott, we know CBS pouring through these documents. What are you finding that's new?
It's an ongoing process. Getting through 3 million pages is no small task, and you can't do it in a concentrated, finite period of time. Let me just update what the president said a few moments ago, issuing another one of those stem winder of a social media posts. It goes on a ways, but the first line is worth emphasizing. It reiterates what he said in that press gaggle last night, that he was not friendly with Jeffrey Epstein, and that he is accusing others of falsely accusing him, and then he's threatening potential litigation.
And what Trump had to say.
Connected him to Epstein. This all echoes what he said to the press last night. But I think this is somewhat beside the point of what we're talking about here today, Reed, which is that there are any number of people, prominent people, powerful people, who had communications, emails to Jeffrey Epstein in the years after Epstein pleaded guilty to an offense in 2008, including people in the president's circle, powerful people in media, in news, in politics, and that is a problematic thing because Jeffrey Epstein had already acknowledged misconduct, yet he was still in this powerful circle years later.
I also want to ask you about this. The Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, he's making these headlines that you're well aware of, that there would be no new charges based on the findings. Can that be something that they can come to that quickly in a conclusion?
I've spoken to a number of Epstein survivors over the past 72
hold
hours,
on.
including
Did
a few
y'all hear
moments
that?
ago.
They said there will be no new charges according to the new paperwork that came out, meaning they're not going to charge anybody with anything. There would be no new charges.
With Danielle Bensky, who's been an activist seeking transparency, she says they cannot make that conclusion based on what's been released so far because so much has been held back. We're talking about 3 million pages or so not released. Thousands and thousands.
Hold on. What you say? Anyone that takes ABS or CNN or MSNBC as real news should go see a therapist. Man, it wouldn't matter if I was showing Fox. People gonna believe whatever they want to believe. You know what I'm talking about? You don't believe those channels. Other people don't believe other channels. Whatever, whoop-de-doo. If you don't believe it, go do your own research. This is just getting the information out that they're putting across. If you're seeking, what they're not talking about, go do your own research and go find it yourself. No reason to be in my chat trying to discourage other people from watching stuff, finding out information that they may not know. You go sit down somewhere before I deport you.
Redactions, some erroneous redactions, some things that were disclosed that shouldn't have been disclosed. She's making the argument that there was so much in this Epstein network, you can't read into these files anything that precludes other prosecutions. Todd Blanche made a different argument and said the review is over. But Reed, the statement that the review is over from the Department of Justice has only poured gasoline onto a fire. It has not extinguished it. There are members of Congress, survivors, activist groups that say more needs to be released under the law, much less under good transparency.
Is there any more talk today that there could be somebody who could oversee this? So we know that survivors have said, look, independent set of eyes wouldn't hurt.
There have been arguments consistently, accelerating over the last few months, for a third party to take a look at things and make sure the Department of Justice followed the law.
CB, they redacted so much within these files. It's crazy, man. It's several redactions for no reason.
As it was supposed to. Maybe an inspector general, an auditor, an outside private group, somebody else to lay eyes on this thing to make sure the Department of Justice has properly followed a law that they were 40 days late in adhering to. 3 million pages released, 6 million pages total. That means only 50% of what was in the full files has been made public.
3 million released. There's still 3 million that haven't been released yet, guys. So they're holding on to another 3 million files. Why? Why not just put them all out?
Is satisfying no one here in Washington.
Scott McFarlane combing through it all.
All right, make sure you take time to double tap that screen, guys. It helps out the channel. Let's get the likes past 100. Double tap that screen if you have not. If you're on a mobile device, double tap the screen or click those three dots and hit that thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new. This is everything I'm finding out about the new release of these 3 million Epstein files and what's within them, guys. All right, remember I told y'all that Trump name was mentioned over 1,000 times. 1,000 times in his new file dump. Check this out.
Epstein provided a closer look at his connection to world elites from Hollywood to Washington, Wall Street to Buckingham Palace and beyond, including many high-profile men who publicly claimed to be disgusted with the convicted sex offender and his close associate and fixer, Ghislaine Maxwell. Let's go through just some of the revelations. President Trump is mentioned more than 1,000 times in the newly released documents, reflecting a long-standing social and business connection between the two men. Previous document releases indicated Trump was listed as a passenger on Epstein's jet 8 times between 1993 and 1998. And now, the newly released documents include uncorroborated claims about Donald Trump. The White House, responding to the Miami Herald, referred to a statement on the DOJ website denying any credibility in the accusations against the president. Several other high-profile men are in the documents, including Peter Thiel, who in one of several emails was revealed to write, "That was fun." See,
hey man, right now it got me feeling like who ain't in the Epstein files that's rich and famous? Seems like they got everybody in there.
You in 3 weeks. The context of the email exchange is unclear. Bill Gates shows up in an email written by Epstein.
Your boy Bill Gates, one of the richest men in the world. He in the Epstein files.
Where Epstein claims Gates contracted an STD from a, quote, Russian girl and sought antibiotics to hide it from his wife. A spokesperson for Gates called the claims absurd and completely false. Contrary to what he said publicly, New York real estate mogul
Bill Gates called an STD messing with some of them. Whoa, my goodness, man. Wow. And was trying to get medicine so his wife didn't find out. He said, hey, man, that's not true. But it was most definitely in there and being said, guys. Continue to double tap that screen. Let's get those likes up. We got 700 people in the building. Double tap that screen, guys. That's how you hit the like button or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new.
Andrew Farkas co-owned a marina with Epstein, located near Epstein's Island, and the two exchanged affectionate and crude emails. The documents reveal Farkas himself also stayed on Epstein's private island. Another revelation? Farkas gave Epstein discounts on dockage and services at the marina, which served...
Man, that's crazy, all these rich people building in this island, you know, to do what they was doing. Man, that is crazy, y'all. Wow.
...served as a gateway to what's known as Epstein's so-called Rape Island. Billionaire Richard Branson shows up in the files, too.
Oh, that's that, man. That's the, ain't that the cellular phone, man? What was the name of his, what was the name of his cell phone company? Dang, what was the name of it? I know somebody down there know. What was the name of this guy's cell phone company, guys? Let me know. You know, I used to see him all the time. He was building rockets and jets and going to outer space. What was it? Was it Vive or something like that? What was the name of it? I know y'all know. Virgin. There we go. Virgin Mobile. Yeah, he in there too, man. Yeah, when you got money, you go to Epstein Island. I'm glad I'm broke.
Hosting Epstein twice and exchanging friendly emails in 2013, joking about Epstein's harem and giving him advice about rehabilitating his image after Epstein's sex offender conviction. New York Giants co-owner Steve Tisch shows up.
Oh, man, New York Giants co-owner. He in the Epstein files too. Good Lord.
Hundreds of times in this latest tranche of Epstein-related files, mostly in 2013 emails where Epstein is proposing women for Tisch to meet, sending photos...
Trying to get him in there with them women, sending them photos and all type of stuff, enticing these old men.
And bios. In one exchange, Tish asks if a woman he met at Epstein's home is a, quote, working girl, and Epstein replies, NWVER. Then asks for Tish's phone number, saying he doesn't like, quote, records of these conversations. Later, Epstein tells Tish, you did well, and that the woman wants to see a play, but is freaked out about his age. In a statement, Tish wrote that he did not take Epstein up on any of his invitations and never went to his island. The UK's Prince Andrew is shown in never-before-seen
Prince Andrew's on the floor. Look at him. You know what I'm saying? He hovering over some woman doing something he ain't got no business. I don't know what this is all about, but this is Prince Andrew. You know what I'm saying? The royal family. You know, he lost his spot, you know, over there in England behind this, you know. Now look at him. I don't know what he was doing, but it must have been inappropriate. They got this in the files too, guys. Wow.
Photos on a floor on all four.
Y'all think he was finna give a CPR? I'm just saying, was they practicing CPR or something? What y'all think he was doing right here? It most definitely don't look appropriate. He got his hand on the stomach here. Let me zoom out. Right here, he got his hands on the stomach. Right here, he just kind of straddling over. And over here, he got his hand on her stomach again. Was he giving a CPR?
With an unidentified female, along with more exchanges with Epstein, arranging dinners and offering meetings with women. And another where Andrew invites Epstein to come here to BP, referring to Buckingham Palace. Many men whose names are in the documents had publicly and vehemently distanced themselves from the predator, but who are shown to have had seemingly friendly contact with Epstein. That includes a number of men in Donald Trump's orbit.
Oh, a number of men in Trump's orbit. Meaning Trump ain't the only one. Man, y'all got to get them lights up. Double tap that screen. You know, if you're on a mobile device, and click those three dots, hit the thumbs up. Let's get the lights up, guys. I know y'all enjoying the content. It's over 700 of us in the building. Y'all get those lights all the way up. Double tap that screen, guys. Double tap that screen. It helps out the channel.
His administration. Elon Musk had said in 2019 that...
Oh, there goes Elon. Now, he was the one that I was telling y'all earlier that was like, oh, Trump name appears in the files too, you know, whatever. Only to find out he in there too.
Epstein tried repeatedly to get me to visit his island. I declined. Yet, according to the newly released emails from 2012, he asked, are you coming by helicopter? Probably just Tallulah and me. What day/night will be the wildest party on your island?
He told us he didn't go. You know, he was invited, but he never went. According to this paperwork, he flew in by helicopter, him and Tallulah, if that's his girl, whoever that is, you know, they came on a helicopter. So he most definitely went there. Shame on you, Elon. And you told him to put out all this information. You just so rich, you don't care, huh? You know, I'm just saying. But he said Trump was in there. We find out that Elon was in there too.
Day/night will be the wildest party on your island. Musk has denied attending that party, nor ever visiting the island. Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, in 2025...
Oh, Howard, you in there too. Good Lord.
Publicly described Epstein as gross and the greatest blackmailer ever, and that he had resolved years earlier never to be in the same room with him again, suggesting he had cut ties with Epstein. But according to the newly released documents, Lutnick arranged and carried out a private lunch with Epstein and his family on Epstein's private island. And Trump's newly nominated pick for chair of the Federal Reserve appears to have been invited to one of Epstein's social events. We do not know if he attended. One other notable, the director of the newly released documentary Melania, Brett Ratner, appears in the newly released documents, including this photo of Ratner on a couch next to Jeffrey Epstein, with Ratner's arm around an unidentified female, and Epstein sitting shoulder to shoulder with another female, both of their faces obscured.
Thank you.
Multiple media outlets have reached out to Brett Ratner, who apparently you would think, you don't know, but who you would think would be kind of on a media tour because of this Melania movie. No comment there. Lisa Rubin, you know, everyone waited 6 weeks at least to see these documents. Apparently there are more that maybe we'll never see.
It's 3
These
million
have
that's missing.
redactions. And one of the reasons why there was a wait, lawmakers claimed that the documents needed to be poured through to protect the victims.
Karen, I'm just saying.
And yet, victims were not protected, it appears, in these documents. Tell us about it.
No, Mika, I spent a lot of time looking at these documents, and obviously you can't boil the ocean over a weekend. 3 million pages is quite a bit. But one of the things I found was I counted the names of more than 40 known and suspected survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell just in my cursory review of the documents. And of course, on Friday, one of the first things I found was a driver's license of a known survivor, someone who testified at Ghislaine Maxwell's trial with her photo completely unredacted, something that Todd Blanche had pledged in his Friday press conference that we would absolutely not see. He told us that photos of every woman except for Ghislaine Maxwell would be fully redacted, and yet this was a driver's license with the woman's picture fully visible, her name fully visible, and yet someone had taken the time to black out her address. And Mika, now I can tell you and our viewers, I've had the opportunity to speak with this woman who gave me permission to share her story this morning. Her name is Anushka DiGiorgio. She was one of the 4.
There you go. It's 6 million pages, guys. They only put out 3 million. That mean there's 3 million that they haven't put out yet.
Woman who testified at Ghislaine Maxwell's trial. And in addition to her driver's license, one of the things that I discovered was handwritten notes from and a typewritten memorandum from a July 2021 meeting she had with prosecutors. And the purpose of that meeting was to assess her credibility on the stand at Ghislaine Maxwell's trial by probing her about the most intimate details of her life and background. Things like her romantic history, her history of substance abuse.
They are pushing for it, CB. Justice is just moving slow on their end. They most definitely want all the files out. They most definitely came out and spoke and said that they don't care. Well, some of the victims, they don't care about their names and pictures being in there. They just want all the files out, you know. And the Trump administration is giving them blowback. They keep on redacting things, even though some of the victims have came out and said that they don't care about people knowing who they are.
And her subsequent recovery and sobriety. Things like the names of her sponsors in recovery and the names of men that she had dated and so on and so forth. Anushka DiGiorgio found out that these documents were in the public domain because I contacted her lawyer. And on Friday, she received a text from her lawyer notifying her about this. Within 24 hours, she wrote a scathing email to senior leadership at the Southern District of New York. You'll remember that the Southern District of New York's U.S. Attorney's Office was where Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were both prosecuted. They also played a very prominent role in the review of these documents. Anushka DiGiorgio telling them that they had re-traumatized her and opened up wounds that she had spent years trying to recover from, as well as exposing her to legal, professional, and personal harm.
Thank you, Valerie.
Exposing these details about her
I hope
life.
that you subscribe.
As of yesterday
Don't let
morning,
it be your
these
last
documents
time here.
belonging to Anushka DiGiorgio were removed from the Department of Justice's website. But did she get a response from anyone at the Department of Justice? Neither she nor her lawyers did.
And so important, Lisa, to keep the victims front of mind here. So thank you for doing that. Let's talk, though, about, about 3 million documents were dropped. There's another about 3 million, we believe, that are still out there. Talk to us about whether you think we'll ever see those.
Yeah, when will we see those?
And the fact that there are so many questions raised. A lot of people spend a lot of time sifting.
Do you guys think we'll ever get those other 3 million documents with so much that's been released in these first 3 million? Yeah, I'm like, whoa, I can only imagine what's in that other 3 million. They in there trying to take stuff out, allegedly. That's what they say. They're not dropping them at all because they're carefully going through and removing what they don't want to be seen, allegedly. I don't know, though. Y'all think we'll ever see those other 3 million? Let me know in the comments.
Through these over the weekend. There's some really outlandish, salacious stuff in there. We don't know if it's true or not. There doesn't seem to be more investigations coming. And it's just going to raise far more questions about what we don't know now and may never will.
Let's start with, are we going to see more drops of documents? At least according to the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, we are not going to. He said that the department, in addition to producing nearly 3 million pages, was also withholding another 3 million pages for a variety of reasons. Those include reasons that are permitted by statute, including for the protection of these victims. But he also took the liberties to say that they had withheld documents for reasons that the law does not permit, and that includes where the department believes that they are privileged documents. What does that mean? If they reflect internal conversations at the Department of Justice that are reflective of internal decision making, or they think they're attorney-client communications or attorney work product, that will be the basis, according to Mr. Blanche, for withholding or redacting scores of documents that we may never see. Now, we know that in these documents are some of the things that people like Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, two of the leaders pressing for the passage of this Epstein Files Transparency Act, most wanted to see. What am I talking about? The draft prosecution memo, the draft indictment that was written in Florida in 2007, 2008, where prosecutors were prepared to charge Jeffrey Epstein with 30 plus federal counts based on the experiences of 19 women. But there are still in the files today, Jonathan, lots of women whose names are visible. I checked last night for others of the victims' names still there. And of course, there is no enforcement mechanism for Congress. Mr. Blanche stood up before everyone and said, if members of Congress want to see some more of these materials, including unredacted, we'll give them access.
They keep on they redact a whole bunch of stuff. You don't even, what does this even say? Nothing. It got a whole bunch of redactions on it. I'm just saying, man, they redacted a lot, but they didn't redact some stuff. Somebody in the comments made a valid point. They said, well, that's what happens when you rush
to it. But if I'm a member of the House Oversight Committee, I'm scratching my head right now thinking, isn't that the very thing that I've had a subpoena outstanding for months to get? Why is it that the department couldn't be responsive to our subpoena, and only now, after dumping millions of pages, they'll tell us that it's accessible to us to look for the needle in a haystack? That doesn't quite seem just or fair.
All right. So with all that being said, now they're saying that basically there's a tip, a disturbing tip within these files about Trump, guys. Let's go here. You know what I'm saying? Let's go here to Law and Crime. You know, they come with the paperwork and the facts, guys. You know, we most definitely exercise the Copyright Act of 1976 on all videos played. This is for educational purposes only. Let's go.
Produced approximately 3.5 million pages in compliance with the act.
Literally millions of Jeffrey Epstein files have just been released. And these are new details. These are things about President Trump. These are things about Bill Gates. These are things about Bill Clinton. And these are things about Elon Musk. We are going to try to get to some of the highlights of some things that are happening right now and maybe give us details and a glimpse into Jeffrey Epstein's world. Welcome to Sidebar. More than 3 million pages of files in the Jeffrey Epstein probe. Now, this, of course, is pursuant to a Transparency Act that was passed by Congress. And we got to get into what we're seeing here. Now, to be clear, we're not going through 3 million pages, but we do have some highlights that we got to address. We got to put into context, too. I should also note that what is not being released, and what we will probably never likely see, I should note that as well, there are things, according to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, that are allowed to be withheld under the law. These are files that contain, you know, personally identifiable information of victims, victims' personal and medical files, any similar files, any depiction of child sexual abuse material, anything that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. Maybe that's a bit broad. And we may never actually know what any of this may be, but we got to take the government at its word. Anything that depicts or contains images of death, physical abuse, or injury, files covered by various privileges, so things like that. Actually, here's a section of what Todd Blanche had to say.
We comply with the act, and there is no... we did not protect President Trump. We didn't protect or not protect anybody. I mean, I think that there's a hunger or a thirst for information that I do not think will be satisfied by the review of these documents. And there's nothing I can do.
Which we just found out he lied about, because there are victim names, photos, and driver's license that are not redacted. That should have been. But anyway.
About that. Okay, so now there's a lot here to get through. Like, for example, Epstein accomplice, convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. Her arrest photos are in there. This includes pictures from her home in New Hampshire where she was picked up. How about this? An email between First Lady Melania Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Melania in the Epstein files. She contacted Ghislaine Maxwell. Wow.
2002, where she seemingly writes, "Dear G, how are you? Nice story about J.E., Jeffrey Epstein, in New York Mag. You look great in the picture." Or how about the current U.S. Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, who is apparently a neighbor of Jeffrey Epstein in New York City, where
See, they got kind of touched on it on the last video, but in this one they show the paperwork as well of what these people are alleged of doing.
Allegedly sent an email to Epstein's assistant in 2015 inviting Epstein to a Democratic fundraiser for Hillary Clinton. Remember, Clinton ran it.
And yes, they are under fire too. We'll get to them in a minute. You know, where they were subpoenaed to come testify in front of Congress. They said they wasn't going to do it and then abruptly changed their minds. I wonder why, but we're going to get to that in a second.
It's Trump. Oh, and then there's this. Bill Gates looking to get STD medication. Bombshell allegation that President Trump assaulted a minor. We're going to put that one into context, though. A lot here, a lot I want to get into, and there's definitely more about President Trump. There's more about former President Bill Clinton, Elon Musk. I want to bring on attorney Richard Schoenstein, though, to discuss all this. Rich, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. There's a big points that we're going to get into, but just general thoughts on the release so far. After you have read 3 million pages, what are your main takeaways?
Yeah, well, you know, I haven't read every line or watched every video or looked at every photo, and there's a lot here. But I think of it sort of the same way I think about litigation, where there are often very large document productions. And parties like to justify the way they're acting in litigation by saying, look at how many documents we produced. We produced so many documents. But often it's what's not produced. And my understanding here is there's a substantial amount of material that still hasn't been produced, and a substantial amount of material.
Now that's a creepy photo. Ugh.
Material that is redacted. So we're going to look at what has been produced and analyze it as best we can, but this is not complete.
Okay, so let's start with what has been produced. And I have to start with the bombshell, okay? This bombshell concerning the president, President Trump. Now, there is apparently a sexual assault allegation that I'm about to read, and I want to put it into context. It seems the Department of Justice made a list of all of the sexual assault claims against the president. We don't really know why they put this list together, but it should be noted these are tips, meaning they're unverified claims. And according to CNN, this list was in an email that was sent from the FBI New York's field office to the Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force. So you could also argue this looks to be secondhand information, maybe even third-hand information in many cases. Now, the DOJ made that clear in a statement. Quote, this production may include fake or falsely submitted images, documents, or videos, as everything that was sent to the FBI by the public was included in the production that is responsive to the act. Some of the documents contain untrue and sensationalistic claims against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false, and if they have a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already. Put that to the side. But we are going to warn you, the allegations made in these tips are very disturbing. For example, quote, redacted reported an unidentified female friend who was forced to perform oral sex on President Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The friend told Alexis that she was approximately 13 to 14 years old when this occurred, and the friend allegedly...
Disgusting! 13 to 14 years old. Wow, guys. Yeah, these are allegations against Trump. Now, the DOJ said they're not true or they would have been used against Trump. But good Lord, how mercy. 13 to 14 years old, guys. Wow.
Bit President Trump while performing. The friend was allegedly hit in the face after laughing about biting President Trump. The friend said she was also abused by Epstein. And the log states that this tip was sent to the Washington office to conduct an interview. The next tip reads, redacted reported she had a friend, redacted, who was a personal assistant to Epstein in Florida from 1986 until 1991 or 1992. This friend shared names of the guests at Epstein's parties to include Bill Clinton and Donald Trump.
Clinton.
Now, there's a call log that indicates that 2 voicemails were left for this complainant, but there was never a response. And then you have a tipster who connects the Alexander brothers, you know, the guys that are under federal indictment or in federal trial right now in New York for allegedly sex trafficking women. We've been covering it here on Sidebar. They allegedly have a connection to Epstein. Quote, at age 16, while modeling, caller attended 8 parties at Epstein's New York residence. On one occasion, caller reported she was sexually assaulted by Epstein. On another occasion, 2 twin brothers, Alon and Orrin, lured caller and her friend upstairs, but they escaped back downstairs. Caller stated Orrin raped her best friend, and a third brother, Tal, raped a 14-year-old girl named Redacted. Caller named other individuals involved in, quote, big orgy parties with her, other young girls, and older Victoria's Secret models, including Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. Online complainant reported she was a victim and witness to a sex trafficking ring at the Trump golf course in Rancho Palos Verdes, California between 1995 and 1996. Complainant reported Ghislaine Maxwell as the madam and broker for sex parties, clients of whom included Epstein, Robin Leach, and Donald Trump. Quote, the guests were older men and included Elon Musk, Don Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump were there. Attorney Alan Dershowitz was also there with attorney Bob Shapiro. We were taken in rooms, forced to give to Donald Trump, forced to allow, I think this says, penetration. I was 13 years old when Donald J. Trump raped me. Ghislaine Maxwell was also present. Okay, Rich, what do we make of this? I mean, because there does become a question of whether or not these are credible claims.
Yeah, and that's really difficult, Jesse. You know, on one hand, some of what's asserted here is consistent with other allegations we've heard over the years against the president and certainly against Jeffrey Epstein, right? This is consistent with things we've heard. But in these files, it's not, it's sort of sometimes secondhand or third-hand hearsay. These are allegations. These are not.
How many of y'all agree with what was being said? Do y'all think it's fact or fiction? Let me know. When it comes to Trump, do y'all think that what we just saw, what they just read to us, was fact or fiction? Let me know.
Things that were proven in court. These are not things that were taken to court. And in fairness, it's hard to give them that much credibility without knowing more. Now, if you had these allegations, you might want to do an investigation. And I'm a little bit put back by the DOJ saying, you know, these are meritless or these are false or none of this is true. That seems to go too far the other direction. But I don't know that we have enough information here to say we've established additional criminal conduct.
It is interesting to note, if we're questioning the transparency of the DOJ, if you really believe they were going to hide information, they never would have released this. I mean, at the very least, it's embarrassing for the president. No? I mean, so does it not give you a little bit of hope that they are releasing everything that they can release?
I see the argument to that extent. I think the DOJ has a credibility problem right off the bat because the guy who's leading this was Trump's personal lawyer. So I don't know how much credibility you can have when you're spearheading an investigation and you've come directly from Donald Trump's legal team to the DOJ to do this. That's a credibility problem. And the DOJ over the past year has had tons of credibility problems. They have credibility problems right now based on what they've said about what's happening in Minneapolis. I mean, they're telling us things that obviously aren't true if you've watched videotape. So they have a big credibility problem. It's hard to take them at their word about any of this, frankly.
Let me ask you, and to be clear, law enforcement has never accused the president of any wrongdoing regarding Epstein. He's never been criminally charged or implicated. Let me ask you about Elon Musk. Elon Musk has come up in this. So Elon Musk comes up in this document dump in an email exchange from December 2013. Quote, we'll be in the BVI, so the British Virgin Islands, / St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to visit? And then a response from JEE Vacation responds, I will send heli for you. Probably meaning like a helicopter for you. Quote, actually, I could fly back early on the 3rd. We will be in St. Bart's. When should we head to your island on the 2nd? Quote, did we need to organize Elon to your island?
Elon, it backfired on you. You told him that Trump was off in there, but you didn't tell him you were off in there as well. Now we see that Elon Musk is in the Epstein files as well.
On January 2nd. Now that's interesting because Musk had previously tweeted, Epstein tried to get me to go to his island and I refused. Now it's unclear if Musk ever actually followed through with this trip, but it wasn't just the travel to the island that was discussed via email. There's one from September 2012 that reads, what does JE think of going to Mar-a-Lago after Christmas instead of his island? and the sender and recipient are both redacted, but it's kind of unclear whether if this was a response to this. But again, it does make me question when I read something like this, Rich. You know, big name, flashy, but there were people who were always connected to Epstein, and people who may have traveled on his jet or in his inner circle doesn't automatically equate to guilt. It doesn't automatically equate to them being involved in criminal activity or having knowledge of criminal activity. But I do wonder if it actually supports Elon Musk in a way.
I don't know. You know, it is true. Jeffrey Epstein had social interactions with a whole lot of rich and powerful people, including Donald Trump, including Bill Clinton, and possibly including Elon Musk and many others. And that is something unfortunate that we've learned, that a person who had so many, you know, did so many bad things, was able to establish these connections with the rich and powerful. But it doesn't mean that everybody he had a connection with engaged in criminal activity. It just, I would be shocked if it meant that. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if people who did have contact with Jeffrey Epstein tried to downplay that in the wake of what we all know, even if the contact was innocent.
Let me ask you this. Based on Todd Blanche's statement that they can redact anything that's part of an ongoing investigation, does this mean that they're not, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, it's the president's own DOJ, but that they're not investigating Elon Musk, they're not investigating President Trump, and I'll talk about Bill Clinton in a minute, I'll talk about Bill Gates in a minute. Does that mean that they're not investigating them? Because otherwise they wouldn't be able to release this information, right?
I don't necessarily connect that. First of all, there's sometimes some of this stuff gets released and then pulled back. I think even today there have been some instances of things that were released and then pulled back. I don't have any reason to believe that the Department of Justice is investigating the president or Elon Musk for anything. I would be frankly surprised if they were. But I don't take that from...
I don't think they are either, but they should be.
What's been released, I just assume that from other facts.
Now, let's talk about former President Bill Clinton, who has come up quite a lot in the Jeffrey Epstein conversation. When Epstein sat for a deposition, this came out today, when Epstein sat for a deposition in the Virginia Giuffre lawsuit, this is an Epstein accuser. Remember, she filed a lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, a defamation lawsuit. This was unsealed, I believe, in 2024.
This is the lady that they tried to say unalived herself, right? She brought up these charges against them or whatever, spoke out against them, and then all of a sudden, you know, she wasn't with us anymore, and they tried to say she did it to herself, right? This is the lady right here. I do believe I'm right on the money with what I'm saying. Right down there, I know y'all know. Let me know. Is this her? They try to say she unalived herself. And her family came out and said that she would never do that.
In this deposition from 2016, he sits down and he would always invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination when he was asked about his connection or association or friendship with President Bill Clinton or the Clinton Foundation. For example, it was questions like, please describe all dinners you've ever had with Bill Clinton. And he would say, the fifth, please describe all dinners you and Maxwell have ever had with Bill Clinton. Fifth, please describe all dinners you, Maxwell, and Virginia have had with Bill Clinton. Fifth. Or how about this exchange? Isn't it true that at the time period 2000 to 2001, you were close friends with Bill Clinton? Fifth. And even to 2002, you remained close friends with Bill Clinton, right? Fifth. Bill Clinton flew on your jet a number of times in 2002, right? Fifth. In May of 2002, Bill Clinton...
All of this is where Epstein pled the fifth to in his deposition when he was asked about his ties to Bill Clinton. He pled the fifth every time.
Was on your jet several times, right? Fifth. How about this one? You've heard of the Clinton Foundation, right? Fifth. Please describe all of your interactions with the Clinton Foundation. Fifth. Is it true that you helped Bill Clinton organize the Clinton Foundation? Fifth. Did you discuss with Bill Clinton the idea of creating a foundation? Fifth. Now, Clinton has always denied the allegations. He's always denied having any knowledge of what Epstein was up to. His spokesperson said that the president cut off ties with the disgraced financier before he was charged with soliciting prostitution in 2006. But
I see that somebody said that Epstein pled the fifth when asked about Trump as well. Okay.
Is it strange to you, Rich, that he kept invoking the fifth every 5 seconds when it came to Clinton?
So sometimes defendants or witnesses will cut off an entire line of questioning with a Fifth Amendment right. And so it may be that he was under the view that if he was asked anything about Clinton, he would take the Fifth and not answer it, as was his right as being, a criminal defendant or under investigation or whatever he was at that moment. There's nothing we can do about that. I do think it's a little troubling that Bill Clinton hasn't been more forthcoming with answers about all of this stuff, other than just kind of a general denial. I find that disappointing as well.
When you couple that also with the photos that were released of Clinton recently, right, in the pool, the hot tub, whatever it was. And by the way, the Clintons recently refused a subpoena from the House Oversight Committee to have them testify. There's now a question. The House voted to hold the Clintons in contempt.
They did in the House. Yeah, they speaking on it. They said they was going to hold them in contempt, and the Clintons changed their minds.
You tell me, does this cast a suspicious net around him?
Sure. I think you're justified to say, gee, Clinton, made some trips to Trump Epstein Island, and what's that all about, and why is he refusing to answer questions about it? And I understand that people have questions about that, and I understand people saying he should have answered the congressional subpoena, and those proceedings will play out however they play out. I will say, though, that Bill Clinton is no longer president and hasn't been in several decades and is not running for office and has maybe a lesser need to justify himself in public than other people.
By the way, if you want a full breakdown of what it could mean for the president to possibly be held in contempt, Jesse Weber Live on News Nation. I did a full breakdown of that Monday through Friday.
Great show. Go get it.
Eastern.
Go get it.
Thank you. Okay, so back to this. I have to talk about Bill Gates. This was another bombshell. So back in 2013, the way that I'm understanding this is Jeffrey Epstein allegedly claimed that the Microsoft co-founder was basically looking to get some medication to treat an STD because of having sex with Russian girls, okay? So Epstein had apparently penned this draft email on behalf of a Gates advisor because this person looks like wanted to leave the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So it says, quote, "During the past few weeks, I've been caught up in a severe marital dispute between Melinda and Bill. In my role as his right hand, I have been asked on multiple occasions and in hindsight wrongly acquiesced into participating in things that have ranged from the morally inappropriate to the ethically unsound and had been repeatedly asked to do other things."
Boy, Bill Gates trying to get some STD medicine. Absolutely, Miss Fat. He done contracted something and he trying to get rid of it before his wife find out. Wow.
That get near and potentially over the line into the illegal, from helping Bill to get drugs in order to deal with consequences of sex with Russian girls, to facilitating his illicit trysts with married women, to being asked to provide Adderall. I feel I owe it to my friends and future colleagues to admit a moral failure, to ask forgiveness, and to move on with my life. And then there is apparently a separate draft email to Bill Gates, where again Epstein is portraying himself as this advisor, called Bill Gates said that he's engaged in a cover-up so that you can maintain the reputation that you've worked so hard to achieve. Implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD. You request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your I am concerned that if Melinda decides, as you said, to file for a public divorce, the damage done to the pledge program alone will result in billions of dollars of money no longer being used for social good, as I'm sure that some wives and husbands would feel free to retreat from their commitments. Now, this is a complicated one, Rich. So, again, it's like Epstein speaking on behalf of somebody else. I have no idea if these allegations are true, but your thoughts?
Yeah, well, and that's a big problem with this entire endeavor. So these are salacious allegations. There have been, those kind of allegations about Bill Gates in the past, and there often are.
Shout out to everybody that's in the building, guys. Take time to double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device. Let's get those likes all the way up. Can we get the likes to 200? We need 40 more likes. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit the thumbs up. It helps out the channel, and I would appreciate it greatly. Double tap that screen, guys. Let's keep the likes moving.
Those kind of allegations against the rich and powerful. But a problem with this Epstein file endeavor is documents don't usually prove anything standing alone. And releasing the documents, like, I'm for it. I think transparency is good. I don't see why these were withheld. I think there's some value here, but it's going to be hard to prove anything unless you have government offices investigating earnestly and prosecuting when they're aware of misconduct. You're not going to get to the bottom of it and get, criminal convictions and the like. Otherwise, all you're going to get are millions of documents and millions of questions.
Now, a spokesperson for Bill Gates has rejected any allegations that were laid out here and basically said these claims are absolutely absurd and completely false. The only thing these documents demonstrate is Epstein's frustration that he did not have an ongoing relationship with Gates and the lengths he would go to entrap and defame. By the way, just going back to Epstein, we talk about so many other people. Look at this allegation that Epstein assaulted a minor girl after she told him she previously had been molested. Okay, apparently she told the FBI this back in 2021. It's from a 302. It's a witness interview. We don't know if the FBI found evidence to substantiate this, but the notes say that this victim felt degraded when she went to Epstein's place, that she felt taken advantage of, that she said she also felt happy that she got a bunch of money from massages, but clearly this is just another point in Epstein's playbook. So you couple that, Rich, with the Gates thing, right? It goes to this pattern of power, taking advantage of people, trying to compromise them. I mean, there are aspects of this we think about everybody else, but it does go back to the evil that was Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, 100%. Jeffrey Epstein was a horrible person and did many terrible things, including some of the things we're talking about, but also in a business sense. And he turned on people. He could not be trusted. You would not trust him if he was testifying. If he was testifying and he didn't take the fifth, you wouldn't trust him. And you can't really trust what he wrote in an email years and years and years ago. And it makes this endeavor, again, very difficult because you have a inherently untrustworthy source writing things that are not complete thoughts in any event. It just becomes very hard to piece it together.
Okay, let's see where this goes. I'm sure we'll maybe do another episode because.
All right, so that was some tips with Trump, that was within there. We seen interesting people be named off in these documents. One of them being Elon Musk. They keep on talking about Elon and what he allegedly, him allegedly going to Epstein Island. Let's hear a little more about Elon, guys.
When asked more than a dozen questions about former President Clinton. Among them, several about whether Mr. Clinton visited Epstein's private island and flew in his private plane. The former president has denied ever having visited the island. So has Elon Musk, yet the files contain at least 2 emails discussing just that. In one from the 24th of November 2012, Epstein writes, "How many people will you be for the heli to island?" Musk responded the next day that it would probably just be him and his then wife, adding, quote, "What day/night will be the wildest party on our island?" A year later, Musk wrote Epstein saying, quote, "We'll be in the BVI St. Bart's area over the holidays," BVI's British Virgin Islands. "Is there a good time to visit?" To which Epstein replied, "Always space for you." It's unclear if that or the other visit took place. Representatives for Musk did not immediately respond to a request for comment about the new emails. And Musk in 2019 told Vanity Fair, quote, "He tried repeatedly to get me to visit his island. I declined." Now, Musk, you'll recall, famously posted this during his beef with the president this year, quote, "Time to drop the really big bomb. Trump is in the Epstein files." Minutes later, he followed up with, quote, "Mark."
Yeah, Trump is in the Epstein files, and so are you, Elon. So are you. Wow.
This post for the future, the truth will come out. Now, keeping him honest, that's kind of hard to do. He seems to have taken the post down along with the first one. Also in the files, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who famously said he'd broken ties with Epstein in 2005, vowing to, quote, "never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again." The files, though, reveal Lutnick or his wife, Allison, were in touch with Epstein as recently as 2012. In an email from Allison Lutnick in November of that year, she writes, quote, "We are looking forward to visiting you," adding, "We are traveling on a yacht called Excellence, and I am CCing the captain." A spokesperson for the Commerce Department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. So a lot to talk about tonight. Starting us off, CNN Chief Legal Affairs correspondent Paula Reed. She's been going through the documents all day. So what stands out to you from the documents you've reviewed so far?
So the document that really stands out at this point is this list of accusations against President Trump, because the FBI compiled this list last summer, and this is a lot of the kind of information that investigators gather when they're looking at whether charges should potentially be pursued. For example, they're looking at unverified tips. Some include secondhand information that came through a tip line. It appears the FBI followed up on some tips. At least one was found to be unverified. But this is the kind of information they collect but do not usually make public if there are no charges brought in a case. Now, of course, President Trump has always denied any wrongdoing connected to Epstein. But there are a lot of questions that are raised here. First of all, why did the FBI make this list of accusations specifically relevant to President Trump, though President Bill Clinton was also mentioned in there? The document was also taken down at least twice today. Last time I checked, Anderson, it was back up. But this list of allegations will likely prompt more questions for the Justice Department and the White House, even though this release is, of course, part of an effort to try to tamp all this down.
Trump in the Epstein files. The Justice Department releasing millions of new pages of documents from the Epstein files, and among them is a list that Trump's own Justice Department compiled. His own Justice Department. This list details a list of sexual assault allegations related to the president. Now, this list was released this morning as part of this document dump.
Man, I'm giving y'all some great content. Let's get those likes up. Double tap that screen, guys. If you have not, if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, guys, as we go through some of the celebrities and politicians that's in the Epstein files.
Then suddenly disappeared from the Justice Department's website. That was noticed, called out, that got posted again. The administration claims that snafu was because the site got overloaded. Now, many of the allegations appear to have come from unverified tips. Some are incredibly graphic and disgusting and upsetting, frankly. The files also today released included a complaint from a woman who accused Trump of raping her in 1994 when she was 13 years old. According to the complaint, the woman, identified as Jane Doe, claims, quote, Epstein was angry that Trump was the one to take Doe's virginity and then went on to rape Doe.
Wow.
That's just disgusting and depraved. It goes on in graphic detail. These descriptions do mirror the allegations that Jane Doe made in her 2016 lawsuit against Trump, a lawsuit that was eventually dropped. Now, at the time, Trump denied the allegations, his attorney telling Politico it is categorically untrue, it is completely frivolous, it is baseless, it is irresponsible.
Thank you.
I won't even discuss the merits because it gives it credibility it doesn't deserve. And Trump's DOJ, again, stressing, quote, this production may include fake or falsely submitted images, documents, or videos, as everything that was sent to the FBI by the public was included in the production that is responsive to the act, referring to the act of Congress forcing them to release these files, of which this chunk they're releasing, of course, is a month after the deadline. And while Trump is not accused of any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein at this time, he has fought vehemently and obsessively against the release of the files, lashing out at reporters who have pressed him for a long, long time on why his Justice Department has been so slow to release anything.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax.
Trump just wanted all to go away, guys. He just wanted all to go away.
Nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats.
Go ahead.
When you talk about the Epstein hoax, it's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax.
Joining us now is Virginia Democratic Congressman
looking like
James
a hoax
Walker,
right now.
sits on the House Oversight Committee. So, Congressman, the ranking Democrat on the Oversight Committee, Congressman Robert Garcia, released this blistering statement after the files were released, saying, quote, in part, we are demanding the names of Epstein's co-conspirators and the men and pedophiles who abused women and girls. Do you accept the government's explanation for the redactions they've made?
No, I don't. I mean, look, the Trump administration and the Department of Justice has slow-rolled this release at every turn. Today, they released 3 million of the 6 million documents we know they have. We know they have 6 million because they said it. They released 50% of the documents, and the 50% we have today are heavily, heavily redacted. So they continue to cover up the full truth that's in the file. So we're going to continue to push the Oversight Committee's investigation. will continue throughout this Congress and into the next Congress, I suspect. We're not going to stop until we get the transparency that the survivors are demanding.
I mean, some of the claims in some of these files are I mean, pretty bizarre and don't sound very credible. In your view, should the general public, what should the general public take away from these files? How are people supposed to know what's credible and what isn't?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And, you know, there are a number of uncorroborated or perhaps unverified allegations against President Trump there. And I think what I would say is all of that deserves additional scrutiny. Some of them have been revealed publicly in the past and perhaps have limited credibility, but all of them should be explored. You know, the Oversight Committee in the coming weeks, we're going to be deposing Jeffrey Epstein's accountant, his attorneys, the attorneys for his estate. So we're going to continue to ask questions. And I think this release, although limited, not what the law requires, this release will provide information to guide our questioning as we move forward.
Among the materials that the Deputy Attorney General Blanche said were withheld from this release were files that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. Is it clear to you what investigative avenues remain at this point, or if there are any active federal investigations ongoing into this?
I have no insight into the active investigations that the Department of Justice might be engaged in. Obviously, we know President Trump has done what he has done repeatedly and directed the Department of Justice to investigate his political opponents or Democrats with respect to Epstein. I hope that's not the path they're doing. If there are real, legitimate investigations based on what they've learned in the files, those should proceed without any interference or involvement from President Trump.
And as we mentioned, the Deputy Attorney General Blanche said that unredacted files would be made available to lawmakers who coordinate with the Department of Justice. Is there a plan to do that? I mean, obviously, it's a lot of files. Is that even possible?
I know that Congress...
Now look at that. What in the world? You can't see nothing on there. What? Look at this. Hold on. Let me loosen this up a little bit. Hold on real quick. Y'all gotta look at this. You can't see nothing. It's a big redaction. The whole thing is a big redaction. What is going on, man? Blank paperwork. Why even put it out? That's crazy. But anyway, hold on. Let's get back to it.
And Kana and Massey have written a letter asking to review those unredacted files. I think the Democrats on the Oversight Committee and hopefully Republicans as well will be talking about how we can coordinate to review those unredacted files. I certainly want to understand what's been redacted and, more importantly, why.
Congressman James Walkinshaw, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Ain't that just crazy, y'all? Hold up. Let me get up out of here. Hold up. Let me get everything back lined up. Ain't that something, y'all? Just a big batch of nothing. I wonder what it said. But anyway, all right. So we heard about Prince Andrew. Let's get into him a little bit on all fours. What was he doing?
An unidentified woman are featured in the latest disclosure of files linked to the late American sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The images are among more than 3 million documents published by the Trump administration. It's not known where they were taken. Mr. Mountbatten Windsor has been asked for comment, but he hasn't responded. He's previously denied any wrongdoing. The US Justice Department said this was the final batch of material that would be published. John Sudworth has the details.
In and amongst the more than 180,000 images released are these pictures showing the then Prince Andrew kneeling over and touching a female whose identity has been hidden. There's no context, location, or date provided. Andrew has always denied any criminal wrongdoing, but this latest batch of files once again contains items raising serious questions of judgment, not least an email exchange from 2010, long after his close friend Jeffrey Epstein had been convicted of sexual offences involving children, suggesting he meet with a 26-year-old Russian woman in London who he might enjoy having dinner with. Andrew...
Now, Miss Fat, that's what I said. Was he giving her CPR, but his hands was in the wrong spot? He was touching on her side to her stomach.
Replies he would be delighted to see her and adds, will she be bringing a message from you? Please give her my contact details to get in touch. Epstein writes back, she's 26, Russian, clever and beautiful, and yes, she has your email.
We will continue reducing.
The new files also contain further revelations about Peter Mandelson, who last year lost his job as British ambassador to Washington after it became clear his friendship with Epstein had been deeper than previously known. They include the claim...
They all in the Epstein files, every one of them. Lord, have mercy. Look at this. He got a card, happy birthday. And all these people are, well, I'm going to say some of these people are around Trump. That's crazy.
That the sex offender sent Lord Mandelson's then partner, now husband, Ronaldo Avila da Silva, £10,000 to cover the cost of an osteopathy course. Lord Mandelson has described his friendship as a most terrible mistake and says he wasn't aware of Epstein's crimes. There's little, though, to pose a real threat to President Trump, apart from some unsubstantiated allegations which the FBI had already ruled out, nor, his administration says, anything to prove a wider conspiracy. But with so many documents withheld or redacted, Jeffrey Epstein's victims do not believe they've yet been given the whole truth.
When the president signed the bill in November, it was to release all the files. All the files.
This is one of the victims right here. She said she wants all the files revealed. She don't care if her name in it or picture or whatever. She want them all released, unredacted.
Need to be released. They haven't been released. So that's what closure looks like. That's what justice looks like, whether anyone's prosecuted or not. Get the full information out there so the public, the survivors, and everyone can really know what's going on.
With continuing calls for him to give evidence in America, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has yet to respond to the latest revelations, but he's always strenuously denied any wrongdoing.
John Sudworth there. Well, the documents also include email correspondence between tech billionaire Elon Musk and Epstein. The new emails show that Musk, who's not been accused of any wrongdoing in the case, discussed travelling to Epstein's island on more than one occasion, including a 2012 trip where he asked Epstein, "What day/night will be the wildest party on your island?" There's no evidence that Mr. Musk ever did end up taking a trip to Epstein's island. Writing on X, he says, "No one pushed harder than me to have the Epstein files released, and I'm glad that has finally happened. I had very little correspondence with Epstein and declined repeated invitations to go to his island or fly on his Lolita Express, but was well aware that some email correspondence with him could be misinterpreted and used by detractors to smear my name." Well, Gloria Allred, a prominent civil rights...
Now he's saying that they trying to smear his name. I bet Elon, way to wiggle your way up out of there, talking about they was going to use it against you to smear your name because you were saying, release the files, release the files.
Rights attorney represents many of Epstein's victims. She gave her reaction to the latest release of files.
Some of them are completely devastated by the fact that the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, was supposed to and indicated that they were redacting victims' names, the survivors' names. And yet, today, with the release of these more than 3 million files, many of the names of my clients who have been Jane Doe for many, many years were in fact published. And this is devastating to them, and we have to deal with that because they had little or no trust in the government. Now they have no trust in the government because the government has not earned that trust. And the Assistant Attorney General today, Todd Blanche, in his press conference said that he hopes that the release of the files will bring closure to the victims. This is ridiculous because they have devastated so many of these survivors by publicly releasing their names. At best, it was a sloppy job.
Y'all see Epstein? That's Epstein and Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson in the files. Lord, have mercy.
Worst, it smacks of a cover-up.
Gloria Allred there. Well, with me is our correspondent, John Sudworth. John, a number of questions from this. But first of all, the administration indicating this is the final batch. Is that likely to be the case?
That's what they're saying, that they have complied with.
I just wanted y'all to see with Michael Jackson, get all the way to Michael Jackson as well as what they had to say about Prince Andrew. Ain't that something, guys? Michael Jackson was in the Epstein files. Lord, have mercy. Wow. All right. So let's go here, where they tell us a little bit about, the new Epstein files reveal more about his interactions with the rich and famous. Yes, ma'am.
To do with the case against Jeffrey Epstein, as I want to read some of the latest reporting courtesy of the Associated Press. Newly disclosed U.S. government files on Epstein have prompted the resignation of a top official in Slovakia and revived calls in Britain for a former...
Oh, he got people in Slovakia, resigning from their positions. Boy, a lot of people are about to be in a lot of trouble.
To share what he knows with authorities about Epstein's links to powerful individuals around the world. The fallout comes just a day after the Justice Department began releasing a massive trove of files that offers more details about Epstein's interactions with the rich and famous after he served time for sex crimes in Florida. Joining us now to break it all down is Eric Tucker. He is a reporter with the Associated Press, and he is also involved in dissecting all of these files, millions of them. Eric, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's just start with the basics then. What new information do we know from this latest release?
So if you think back to the document released from last month, the headline really centered on photographs that we saw of former President Bill Clinton. This time around, I think what we're really seeing is that Epstein had a variety of associations with all sorts of other prominent figures in business, philanthropic, and social circles, including in New York City. So we saw a lot of emails and text messages concerning his friendships or associations with people like Elon Musk, Steve Bannon, Bill Gates, and even the co-owner of the New York Giants, Steve Tisch. And we're really seeing from this correspondence frequent back and forth, and really a reflection that Jeffrey Epstein was somebody who was well known in sort of high society New York.
So you've just named a few really high-profile names within this first answer. So Eric, the next question would be, do any of these records indicate any criminal wrongdoing by anyone that has been named here, specifically the new names that you have talked about?
No, we don't have any indication through these records of any sort of untoward behavior, any kind of allegations that were deemed to be potentially criminal. And in fact, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has said as recently as this morning that the Justice Department has reviewed basically everything and has determined that there's no basis for any additional criminal investigation or charge. I would say one sort of interesting element that we're continuing to learn about is former Prince Andrew, who the Justice Department in 2020 had actually sought to interview as part of an investigation. And there are now renewed calls, as you mentioned earlier, including from the Prime Minister of Britain, for the former Prince Andrew to reveal to American investigators whatever he may have known about Epstein's activities.
So now that we're getting some more of this information, I think it was about 3 million pages. We mentioned it right off the top. So we have a lot of documents here. I'm wondering, is this the entire batch of files that we have, or are we expecting several more pages of documents to come out?
We are not expecting more documents to come out, but it's worth noting that the Justice Department has made clear that they did collect all sorts of additional records that are deemed not fit for release. And so there are a lot of redactions of photographs and names that I think we're never going to necessarily see. We're hearing already from members of Congress that they're not entirely satisfied with the document releases. Epstein's victims
Look at
as
all
well
those documents
have
that was
contended that there's
completely
more that needs
blacked
to come
out.
out. But from the Justice Department perspective, the sense that we got on Friday from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is that this is really it, and they're not anticipating additional big tranches of disclosures.
So I think it's important now to talk about why so many of these pages were initially withheld and why the timeline has worked out this way.
So it's a great question. You know, we were under the impression, I think, collectively in the public last month that the Justice Department, of course, it was required to, under law, was going to provide by December 19th the entire trove of Epstein documents. They subsequently said that they had identified millions more that, for whatever reason, they had not earlier seen. And they said that was going to require weeks to go through and redact and make sure that no additional information was revealed that could identify potential victims. And so I think that caught the public, including journalists, by surprise from people who thought that the Justice Department was going to be complying with this law that required it by December 19th to release all these records. The Justice Department said, frankly, it was doing its best and that the need for diligence and a thorough review trumped whatever obligation it had to sort of reveal everything all at once.
I want to refer now to a social media post courtesy of Reuters. So take a look at this. We aired out some of these comments. He was speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One. But this post says U.S. President Donald Trump said that newly released Justice Department files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein cleared him of any wrongdoing. So in terms of where President Trump lands within the
Trump say
entirety
he
of
ain't
these
did
files
nothing.
that we have seen that have been released by the DOJ, where does the president stand within this case?
You know, there's really been no evidence from the release of the files of any sort of significant or substantive or really corroborated allegations. One of the things against the president, I mean, and one of the things that I think that, you know, we did see from this latest tranche is that the FBI did catalog a variety of various allegations and claims that have been made by different women who purported to allege some sort of wrongdoing by President Trump. We've heard now Top Blanche say that they don't have any indication that any of those were true or valid accusations. And so I imagine that that's what President Trump is referring to, that there's no indication that there's anything in here that will require additional investigation of him.
I think it would be worth also noting to the viewers and just explaining, again, with millions of pages of files that have to be reviewed, I mean, what is the process there when we have reporters kind of digging into all of this? How does that work? Where do you even start?
Yeah, it's been a really, difficult, cumbersome process. And I think that, a responsible read of these records means that just because something is cataloged in some way, just because somebody says something to law enforcement about somebody, does not mean that that's the truth. So one of the things that really comes through in these records is that they collected and cataloged basically whatever was presented to them, whether or not it was true or not. And oftentimes there's no indication there was any follow-up to determine that it was true. And so I think that requires a degree of careful reporting and scrutiny as the public is going through it, as the media is going through it, to make sure that kind of context is made clear. Obviously, the emails and the correspondence do speak for themselves in a certain sense, although we can't always know from the records what additional follow-up communication or travel might have occurred. But we do know that there were invitations from Jeffrey Epstein to significant prominent people to his island, for instance. But oftentimes it's not clear what happened after that.
Speaking of this correspondence, Eric, in your detailing of this and reading all of these files, is there any correspondence that stood out to you or surprised you the most?
I think there were names in here that we had not really seen, or names, to the extent that we knew that there was a connection, that we might not have known sort of the specific and substance of it. Steve Bannon, for instance, really comes through as somebody who had a significant relationship, friendship really, with Jeffrey Epstein in the months before Epstein died in New York. And so you see a lot of back and forth there. I think that was notable. Steve Tisch is a co-owner of the New York Giants, and we sort of see that Epstein was involved in kind of scouting women. Tisch, for his part, had issued a statement saying that he would email about adult women and other topics with Jeffrey Epstein, and that it's an association that he deeply regrets.
And then when we talk about the fact that also, I mean, this is going to be the last batch of files that we are expecting to receive, at least so far, are there any follow-up stories that you are monitoring with this, or any leads that investigators may be following up on?
I think obviously the full review of all these records is going to continue for days, I imagine, from both the public and the media. So that's not complete. So we don't necessarily have a full sense of what hasn't yet been reviewed. And as for law enforcement, we're not clear, frankly, that there are additional investigations at all into anyone else that are underway. Jeffrey Epstein's confidant, Ghislaine Maxwell, was recently moved to a federal prison camp. She's serving a 20-year sentence for conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein. Other than that, though, we have no indication that these records are prompting any kind of new scrutiny.
Eric, before I let you go, I have to ask, is there anything that you think that people aren't focused on enough when we talk about these documents? Because there was this fascination with getting their hands on these documents, getting to all the evidence, just to uncover something within this entire Epstein case. But is there something that has gone overlooked, perhaps, as someone who has really focused on this reporting?
I think one of the things that I think really stands out is that there's been so much focus on Epstein and Trump, and Epstein and Bill Clinton, as sort of a current and a former president. And that's valid. But I do think it's sort of notable that Jeffrey Epstein was somebody who had a lot of friends, and a wide social circle. And so there's a lot of information in here about a variety of people. So to a certain extent, it sort of misses the boat or the point to sort of, link it exclusively to the current president or the former president, Bill Clinton. There are a lot of people who Jeffrey Epstein emailed with, communicated with, was friends with, and that sort of has been a major driving storyline from these documents.
Barry Tucker, a reporter with the Associated Press who has focused on dissecting all of these documents. You've written several articles regarding them on the AP. We appreciate your time here at Live Now from Fox to break it all down. And it may be the last batch of files that we get from the DOJ, but it might not be the last time that we talk about this story. So we look forward to checking in with you.
All right, so we've heard Bill Clinton name, Bill Clinton. They keep on talking about Clinton, right, guys? All right, so Clinton and his wife Hillary, they were both basically subpoenaed to testify in front of Congress, in which they said they wouldn't comply at first. Check this out.
At the White House, and a live look at Capitol Hill. Our next story comes out of Capitol Hill. Today, the House Oversight Committee says Bill and Hillary Clinton did not appear for scheduled closed-door depositions in its Epstein-related inquiry, while the Clintons' lawyers argue the subpoenas are legally invalid and that written declarations should suffice. Fox's Bill Malugin reporting on this. Let's watch.
Man, what happened? Hold up, let me see something. I think hold on, let me fix it, Rick. Okay.
I'm going to note for the record that former President Clinton is not present.
Former President Bill Clinton, a no-show on Capitol Hill today. The chair he would have sat in, empty.
As a result of Bill Clinton not showing up for his lawful subpoena, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
Despite being under a...
Hold up, guys. Let's take time to double tap that screen as we get into Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton being subpoenaed and not showing up to testify. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen, guys, or click the three dots, hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let's get those likes up, guys. Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, man. We're talking about Bill Clinton's, involvement with this whole Epstein thing at this moment, guys. Let's get those likes all the way up.
Subpoena, Clinton failed to appear for a scheduled deposition with the House Oversight Committee as part of its Jeffrey Epstein investigation.
I think it's a defiance of Congress for them to defy the subpoena. I think by definition, it's a contempt of Congress.
Hillary Clinton is also subpoenaed to give her deposition tomorrow. But in a letter, Clinton's lawyers call the subpoenas, quote, invalid and legally unenforceable.
Why aren't they in there? Anybody else in America would be shamed to the point of coming in, but the Clintons have just been given they've just given a pass.
Also not in attendance today, any of the Democrats on the committee.
Not a single Democrat showed up today. Not a single Democrat.
We asked Oversight Committee Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett why she wasn't there.
Congresswoman, why didn't any House Oversight Democrats show up to the deposition for Bill Clinton today, ma'am? Why didn't you show up, ma'am?
At least one Democrat thinks those in her party and the Clintons should have come.
It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. You should show up. Everything should be public.
And the House will have to vote to approve holding former President Bill Clinton in contempt of Congress for not showing up today. If it passes the House with a simple majority vote, it then gets referred to DOJ. It will then be up to AG Pam Bondi to decide if she wants to prosecute. Reporting on Capitol Hill, Bill Malugin, Fox News.
All right, we appreciate Bill's reporting a live look at the White House and a live look at Capitol Hill on this Tuesday evening. Let's bring in legal analyst John Day. He's standing by here. John, what makes a congressional subpoena for a deposition legally enforceable or...
So this is what was going on when they didn't comply, guys. Just wait a minute.
Not enforceable.
Well, thanks for having me. This sets up such an interesting fight. When have we seen this before? When Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro in a previous administration faced the same issue, and they were held in contempt of Congress, and they did prison time. Is that what we're setting up Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton for? I mean, it's it's a challenge. It's a direct challenge to the authority of the Congress. And as we've seen in the Bannon and Navarro cases, people do go to prison for making these decisions. So what makes this an enforceable document, a piece of paper, is that it's a subpoena from Congress, and you choose to ignore that at your peril, as we've seen before.
You know, committee leaders are now talking about moving forward contempt of Congress after the non-appearance. John, what's the most realistic enforcement route after a contempt vote happens in a high-profile case like this?
Right. Well, it gets kicked over to the Department of Justice, and I think we know most likely the procedure after that. I think it would be an aggressive prosecution by this DOJ. But it's a choice that the Clintons made to ignore these subpoenas. It looks like Hillary Clinton's not going to appear as well. And that's a battle, that they apparently want to fight. But again, people have gone to prison for making that decision.
Bill Clinton posting this on social media. I believe Hillary sent this out as well. I won't read the entire thing verbatim, but one quote that sticks out: "This is not about right or left, it's about right and wrong." The Clintons, John, have submitted sworn statements denying wrongdoing and saying that their contact with Epstein was limited. They are framing the committee's demands as politically motivated rather than investigationally necessary. How does the law distinguish between a legitimate legislative purpose and a process that court might view as improper or purely political?
Well, the deference is always going to be to Congress, essentially. I mean, you can make the same argument that previous efforts to get people under subpoena, as I brought up Bannon and Navarro, ended in prison sentences. And so you've got a direct challenge to the authority of Congress. And you've even got Democrats in Congress saying the Clintons should show up, everybody should show up, be transparent. So there's obviously a split along those lines about whether this was an appropriate procedure or not. But at the end of the day, who's going to win? I think courts are going to be very deferential to the congressional power to bring people in front of them. And you can argue that it's a political proceeding, but at the same time, if you don't show up, you don't get to make that argument in front of that body.
So what are you tracking from here? What should we be watching out for in the days and weeks ahead with this story?
How is it going to unfold? I think we've seen in the past that Congress will hold them in contempt, make a referral to the Department of Justice. What's the Department of Justice going to do? I think you're going to see a prosecution unless there's some type of a deal struck. You know, the Clintons have said, well, we've provided written statements. We're willing to testify in open public hearings. And that may be a distinction that there might be an off-ramp there if Congress decides, why not have an open public hearing about this? But at the end of the day, it's a risky call because we've seen how this has played out in the past.
All right. We do appreciate John Day, legal analyst, coming on with us. We'll be checking in soon. Thanks.
Thanks.
More on the Clintons, guys.
The House Oversight Committee.
We got even more.
There's nothing to hide. We expect to see her. No one is above the law. By the way, we have been seeing plenty of reporting to suggest that it's not expected that Hillary Clinton will show tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see exactly how things play out. Speaking of the Oversight Committee, the chairman of the committee, James Comer, speaking in front of cameras earlier today. Let's watch.
Everyone knows by now Bill Clinton did not show up. And I think it's important to note that this subpoena was voted on in a bipartisan manner by this committee. This wasn't something that I just issued as chairman of the committee. This was voted on by the entire committee in a unanimous vote of the House Oversight Committee to subpoena former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton's supposed to show up tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. But with respect to the former president, he did not show up today. One reason I think most Americans want President Clinton to answer some questions is because he visited the White House. Jeffrey Epstein visited the White House 17 times while Bill Clinton was president. I've been in Congress 9 years. I think I've been to the White House 9 times in 9 years. Epstein was in the White House double the amount of time that I was under one president. And then we know that Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane somewhere around 27 times after the presidency. So no one's accusing Bill Clinton of any wrongdoing. We just have questions, and that's why the Democrats voted along with Republicans to subpoena Bill Clinton. Not a single Democrat showed up today. Not a single Democrat. The ones that have press conferences on the Capitol steps and talk about how they're trying to get justice for the victims and all that. It just seems like they only care about questioning Republicans. And we've had a former Trump cabinet secretary, Acosta, in for a grilling. We had Bill Barr, former attorney general, in for a grilling. But for whatever reason, President Clinton didn't show up, and the Democrats on the committee don't seem to have a problem. This is the amount of preparation that went into this deposition today. These were the questions that we were prepared to ask. We've communicated with President Clinton's legal team for months now, giving them opportunity after opportunity.
Oh yeah, they was big mad.
Come in to give us a day, and they continue to delay to the point where we had no idea whether they're going to show up today or not. I think it's very disappointing. As a result of Bill Clinton not showing up for his lawful subpoena, which again was voted on unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
We don't expect Hillary to show tomorrow. We'll let you know as soon as we do know.
Hold on.
Here's some breaking news.
It does appear to be a get your lick back type situation, Miss Fat. All right. So after y'all seen him go public and say, hey, they didn't show up. Now we're going to file a motion against them for them basically they were subpoenaed. They didn't show. You know, we're going to hold them in contempt. And when he did that, guys, at the committee hearing or whatever, oh man, all hell broke loose. Let me find it. Hold up. Hold on. Hold up. I might have even used it then. Hold on, let me see. Oh, here you go, right here. Check this out. This is where they held him in contempt, guys.
Mr. Scott, I wonder if Mr. Scott has no questions. Mr. McGovern, you're recognized.
So I have two sets of questions, Madam Chair, because we have two bills coming up here at once. So let me start with the D.C. bill. Chairman Comer, has your committee held a hearing on a markup on this measure?
We have not, because
I don't want to hear about the bill. I'm trying to get to the Clintons.
District of Columbia, Phil Mendelssohn, and it was blocked. In addition to the Clintons, 6 other people were also subpoenaed. Attorney General Barr, she came in to testify. The rest, including the Clintons, all sent in written declarations. Yet this contempt resolution singles them out for partisan reasons. They are actively negotiating with the committee to provide testimony, most recently offering to sit for a transcribed interview, which I guess Chairman Comer has rejected, because this isn't really actually about getting at the facts. It's about playing politics. It's about creating a spectacle. We all know what's going on. Mr. Walkinshaw, isn't this just a political exercise?
Hey guys, we are 30 likes away from 300. Let's double tap that screen. Let's get the likes to 300, guys. This is the actual hearing that they held to hold the Clintons in contempt, guys. This was today.
To change the subject away from Trump's involvement in the Epstein files. By the way, the incomplete release of the Epstein files up to this point, Donald Trump is mentioned 5,391 times. 5,391.
Trump is in the Epstein files 5,923 times. Good Lord.
Times. Yeah. And not one word about even asking the president to voluntarily come up and answer questions, but I'll yield to you.
I think it's really important to remind the American people about the timeline of President Trump's involvement here. We all know he ran for the presidency in 2024, saying he was going to release the files. Shortly after being sworn in, his attorney general claimed to have a binder with the client list, and she was going to release the files. At some point, very quickly, President Trump changed his tune. He started doing everything in his power to prevent the release of the files. We know, based on reporting, the attorney general told him that he was mentioned in the files. We now know thousands of times he's mentioned in the file. So I think we
you know thousands of times because he released the files.
Half of them. He released half of them. only when he was forced to after doing everything in his power to prevent it.
Is there an update on the Clintons?
And I can share an update. The good news, Mr. Chairman, I think we'll be able to go through door number one that I outlined in my opening statement. I understand that the Clintons have agreed to appear for depositions and have agreed to the terms that you laid out in your most recent letter.
Are you aware of that?
No.
Well, if that's the case.
Somehow the media and the Democrats get the correspondence way before we do.
My understanding is that their attorneys reached out to you.
Your staff has it, Mr. Chairman.
You better check with your staff. But if that's the case, why are we doing this then?
If the staff has it, they just got it, because we've been in there waiting for you all to stop talking on the last bill so we could present this bill. And look, you transcribed, they rejected a transcribed, he wanted a transcribed interview. The difference in a transcribed interview and deposition, you don't have to answer the questions in a transcribed interview.
Right, but
they've agreed to the terms in your letter.
I would suggest that you consult with your staff. Maybe Mr. Walkinshaw can maybe make sure that you're, my understanding is that your staff has been notified of this.
If they've been notified, it's been in the last 15 minutes.
Mr. McGovern, it just has come out in the
So basically, they just got the news that the Clintons are willing to basically testify before Congress. Old dude over there like, man, they ain't told us nothing. How the media and the Democrats find out before we do?
I just received a note.
In the last 2 minutes.
Can we save it? Can we save all that?
Just because we're going to have to review this and look at this, and look, this sets a bad precedent. So every time we issue a subpoena, and what Mr. Walkinshaw does not say is the Democrats made the motion for all these subpoenas. This was a Democrat motion, and a majority of the Democrats on the committee voted for this subpoena.
Hear from everyone.
So you're trying to say it's partisan, and it's not partisan.
Reclaim my time, Madam Chair.
Whoop, they getting rowdy.
It's bipartisan.
So, in other words, you're getting everything you want, but you still want to go ahead with the show.
You're talking about something nobody's even read yet, Mr.
All right, so in the recent DOJ release of the Epstein files, there appears to be far more information of prominent people in Epstein's circle, including Donald Trump, Melania Trump, Elon Musk, and Howard Lutnick. Chairman Comer, do you know if top Trump advisor Elon Musk ever went to Epstein's rape island?
I haven't seen any evidence that he had.
Do you know?
But look, if anybody that's been to the island, especially if they went to the island after he's convicted, we're interested in talking to them.
Do you know if Trump advisor Steve Bannon ever went to Epstein's rape
I
island?
don't keep up with Steve Bannon.
All right, do you know if Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick ever went to Epstein's rape island?
He has said he went to the island with his wife and kids and would never go back. He went somewhere. I don't know if it's an island, but he went somewhere with Epstein.
He said that before. So you don't want to subpoena them? Or don't you care to learn if they...
I've subpoenaed the former Republican Attorney General Bill Barr for a hard-hitting deposition, and we subpoenaed Alex Acosta, who served in the Trump administration. How many Republicans did Jamie Raskin subpoena when he has... How many Republicans did the Democrats subpoena? This is a bipartisan investigation. That's why a majority of Democrats on the oversight committee voted for this.
It's my time, Mr. Chair. You can spread all the propaganda you want in your committee, but it's my time in this committee, and I'm asking the questions. So the answer is no, that you're not going to subpoena.
I don't even know what the question is.
Are you going to subpoena Howard Lutnick or Steve Bannon or Elon Musk?
We'll subpoena anyone that the evidence leads us to.
Yes?
If the evidence, we'll talk about it with the committee. We don't just pull subpoenas out of our butts like Jamie Raskin would do.
Chairman Comer, the Oversight Committee issued a subpoena to Attorney General Bondi more than 5 months ago.
I subpoenaed Pam Bondi for the Epstein documents.
Madam Chair, can you muzzle the witness, please?
Yeah, muzzle him.
I mean, Chairman Comer, the Oversight Committee issued a subpoena to Attorney General Bondi more than 5 months ago, requiring her to produce all of the Epstein files to Congress by August 19th, 2025. Yes or no? As of right now, has Attorney General Bondi fully complied with the subpoena?
We're still reviewing the 3 million documents to see if that's all of the documents or not.
It's important.
Just 1 minute, if I could. I'm going to ask you all not to talk over each other, but I do have a question something I'd like to ask, if you'd let me real quickly. Real quickly. Thank you. People keep saying, have all the files been released. Does somebody have a total
No.
of the files? How is anybody ever going to know how many files?
Madam Chair, when this started, 5 or 6 months ago, it was suggested that there were between 100 and 300,000 files. We've already had released over 3.1 million files.
Okay, now, Mr. McGovern.
Mr. Walkinshaw, why don't you respond,
The
please?
direct answer to your question, Madam Chairwoman, is yes, we do have a number. And we have a number because the Trump administration, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, said there are 6 million files. They collected 6 million files. Now, he says they over-collected, so they've only released 3 million. The law does not allow them to subjectively determine that 3 million of the Epstein files that are in his possession, which he said were over-collected. Mr. McGovern, though, asked a question about the Oversight Committee's subpoena and the Attorney General's compliance with that subpoena. That's separate from the release of files that we've seen publicly, because the Oversight Committee's subpoena does not have the same list of allowed redactions that the legislation that we all voted for has. She's produced to this committee only 30,000 pages of documents, not 3 million, not 6 million. She's out of compliance with the subpoena and not following the law requiring the release of all 6 million documents.
But can we talk about this? I'm interested in getting to a number. So, well, I'm curious. Okay, so she's released over 3 million, you said, Mr. Chairman.
She just released 3 million in addition to the I don't know, 37,000 a few months ago.
And Mr. McGovern, you said we know the number? Is that what you said?
The Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, President Trump's former personal lawyer, said that there are 6 million files. He's choosing to release only 3 million, and he's choosing to heavily redact that 3 million.
So should we hold a body in contempt?
What she is turning over documents, and what they said is they turned over documents, every document that they're legally required to turn over.
Well, I don't think she's complying with the subpoena.
That they're allowed by law to turn over.
Well, all right.
There's still investigations, there's class action lawsuits, there's a lot of legal stuff still taking place with this, but we want the documents. We want everything. We're reviewing the 3 million. I don't think anybody can say with honesty they've read all 3 million of them. We're pouring through them as quick as we can.
I'm worried about the 3 million that haven't been released. And do we know what's in those 3 million pages that haven't been released?
We do not know.
Have we heard from? Have you? Because I've been reading the public. I've been reading public statements, but I want to know whether you have heard from Epstein's victims and survivors about the recent release by DOJ. Have you heard some of the concern of some of the survivors who believe that DOJ is deliberately releasing personal information about them?
See,
that's while at the same time protecting the men that abuse these women.
You want to?
It's deeply concerning. I mean, look, the most recent release, we heard from the Department of Justice that they couldn't follow the law because they were taking so much time to carefully scrutinize the files and ensure they did the appropriate redactions to protect the survivors. And then we hear from survivor after survivor after survivor after survivor who was revealed in the release. So they delayed the release to protect the survivors, so they say, and then they failed to protect the survivors when they released half of the files of the law.
And the interesting thing is that the names that really weren't released are the perpetrators, are the people who abused these women. So
That's
again,
crazy.
They victimized again the survivors, and they're protecting the people, who abused them. I got to say that, Republicans on the Oversight Committee have moved swiftly to hold the Clintons
and Democrats
in criminal contempt. Yet several Republican members of the Oversight Committee notably refused to comply with congressional subpoenas from the January 6th committee. Maybe, Chairman Cohen, do you think your own members should have been held in contempt and prosecuted?
So I'm glad you asked that question, because there's been a lot of speculation in our Minnesota fraud investigation that there may be a Democrat member from Minnesota that net worth has significantly increased. What we found out, you can't we can't investigate other members. That has to be the ethics committee. So if there was an issue with the January 6th committee subpoenaing members of Congress, which I've been told we're not supposed to do, then they should take it up with the ethics committee because that's their sole purpose, is to investigate other members.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering whether we should recess for 5 or 10 minutes so that you can figure what the Clinton development is, so we maybe can save ourselves a whole bunch of time.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mr. McGovern. Is this going to be the standard practice every time we issue a subpoena? Whoever's in charge, Democrats, Republicans, whoever's in control, every time you issue a subpoena, letting them stonewall for 5 months and then prove that you've got the votes on the floor in a bipartisan fashion to hold them in contempt.
No, I think what the danger here is that the Clintons were negotiating in good faith, and you jumped to this
for 5 months.
Just say, we have seen Chairman Comer has repeatedly moved the goalposts here.
Oh, that's good. That is not true. You've been here 3 weeks. You don't. Hey, that's not true,
Mr. Chairman. At our markup, the chairman.
Reporters can't hear you, so just a moment. You made an accusation, Mr. Walkinshaw.
I'm trying to.
That the Republicans moved the goalposts.
That's right.
How can you back that up?
I'll back it up this way. We had a markup a couple weeks ago on these contempt resolutions. The chairman laid out his objections to the Clintons' most recent offer at that time. He didn't like that they hadn't agreed to a transcription. He didn't like that they wanted to limit the amount of committee staff in the room. They had said that he hadn't agreed to limit the discussion to Epstein-related matters. He claimed at the time that was untrue, and he did want to limit the discussion to Epstein-related matters. All of those objections that the chairman laid out at our markup a couple of weeks ago were addressed by the offer that the Clintons made yesterday. We now know the additional objections that the chairman laid out in a recent letter have been addressed by the Clintons and their lawyers. So if we're going to continue to move forward, despite the fact that they have met everything you've asked them to meet, I think we've revealed what's actually happening.
And so the question is, are we interested in getting to the truth and the facts, or are my friends interested in creating a spectacle? Or is this all about, no, this, I'll say, we have been on this, Democrats on this committee have tried 9 times to bring, a resolution to the floor to release the Epstein files. Only when public pressure, forced you to cave on it, finally, did we have a vote on it. And now we have a Department of Justice that is half complying.
Mr. McGovern, let me tell you, I agree with you that we should take a recess.
Okay.
So that we can review the recent developments. That's all I was trying to say to you, is I think that we should do that. Rules have been called, votes have been called, and so I think we should go vote.
All right. So we heard them get the news that the Clintons were gonna they were gonna comply, right? Let's show you this. Let's go.
They learned that. All right, we have more breaking news now. This from Capitol Hill, where we have just learned that former President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton, who is a former Secretary of State, will appear for in-person depositions before the House Oversight Committee. Their testimony on the investigation into the convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. For more on all of this, let's go to Joe Khalil, senior congressional correspondent, live on Capitol Hill. Joe, what are you hearing? I heard this came as a bit of a shock to members of the Oversight Committee.
As we just
seen.
So
the bottom line is the Clintons seemingly now have agreed to the terms that the House Oversight Committee has set. So they will presumably come in and provide a deposition in the investigation into the Jeffrey Epstein case. That is huge news in and of itself. But the way this happened was so unusual. Elizabeth, have you ever watched a movie about court, and in the court, while they're actually in trial, someone bursts into the back of the room with evidence, and that sort of like clears the case or something, and you watch it and you think this would never actually happen in real life? That is sort of what happened right now. James Comer is the chairman of the Oversight Committee. He was testifying about how the Clintons had for months refused to comply with this congressional subpoena. And they were about 48 hours away from the House voting to hold the Clintons in criminal contempt of Congress for refusing the subpoena. And as he was testifying today, talking about it, all of a sudden news came in that moment that actually the Clintons have changed their minds seemingly and now are agreeing to comply with his terms. This is that moment, and you can see the House Oversight Chairman learning in real time that the Clintons had reversed their position here. Take a look.
Is there an update on the Clintons?
The Clintons have agreed to appear for depositions and have agreed to the terms that you laid out in your most recent letter.
Are you aware of that?
No.
Well, if that's the case,
Somehow the media and the Democrats get the correspondence way before we do.
my understanding is that their attorneys reached out to you.
Your staff has it, Mr. Chairman.
You better check with your staff. But if that's the case, why are we doing this then?
So just a remarkable moment, the way that happened. It appears now, and we're not sure this is going to happen, but the Oversight Committee right now is reconsidering their motion to refer the Department of Justice file criminal charges against the Clintons for refusing the subpoena, because obviously now they may not be refusing anymore. They're figuring that out right now, but this is the statement that the Clinton's spokesperson put out. It was a bit vague, effectively saying they are going to come in and testify. So all of this happening, again, very quickly, Elizabeth, and we're just digesting it all now.
And will this be...
So right in the middle of them having the conversation, the Clintons threw a curveball. All right, man, we'll come in. Yeah, caught everybody off guard, including the Republicans, and old dude didn't like that too much. Yeah, and all hell broke loose in that meeting.
Open public testimony, or will this be closed-door secret testimony?
This will be closed door, but we may potentially get some kind of readout. Usually we hear from the members after they ask their questions. We may hear something from the Clinton side. I don't know that we'll get a full accounting, but we should get an idea of what was said.
Yeah, notable. The Clintons had been saying they would agree to come in for an interview or to answer questions, but only after all the documents were released. Yeah. I don't think they have yet still been released. A lot were just released, but there's still more that haven't been. And they also wanted to be interviewed and questioned along with President Trump, which is also not happening. Joe Khalil, yeah, that was some interesting times today on Capitol Hill. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching.
All right, so a little bit more. They say, we're glad they're coming in. The top oversight Democrats say, check this out.
Bill and Hillary Clinton have both just agreed to testify in the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Days before, the House was expected to vote to hold them in criminal contempt of Congress. Meanwhile, MS Now has been poring over the 3 million new Epstein documents the Justice Department released on Friday. An initial review found that more than 40 known or suspected survivors' identities were revealed in that release. Those files have since been removed, but survivors say that the damage has already been done.
You get that rush, right? That feeling.
A survivor of Jeffrey Epstein right here.
Shame, tingles, feeling of like, I feel like I want to throw up because it's just all out there for the world to see. But for my survivor sisters who are not public and for those Jane Does, it's absolutely devastating and heartbreaking to see.
Joining us now, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia of California.
Bill Clinton's spokesperson had put out a statement on the Clintons agreeing to testify before the House Oversight Committee. This is new tonight. I want to read a portion of it to you. Quote, they told you under oath what they know, but you don't care. But the former president and former secretary of state will be there. They look forward to setting a precedent that applies to everyone. I think that's very important. So, one, your comments on the fact that the Clintons have now agreed to testify, and two, to the point that the President Clinton spokesperson makes, will there be others?
Look, I think first I want to just be clear. We have said from day one, Oversight Democrats have said from the beginning, that we want anyone that has any information about Jeffrey Epstein to testify, and that includes President Clinton. Obviously, there was a relationship. I think President Clinton has been very clear in public statements about what his relationship was, but I think there are important questions that should be answered.
And at the same time, we should recognize that James Comer is also obviously focused on anyone that Donald Trump views as an enemy to attack. And so look, President Clinton and Secretary Clinton made a reasonable offer just a few days ago to come and appear before the committee. And we want to hear from President Clinton. We've said that from day one. And James Comer has refused to make even modest accommodations for President Clinton. And so I think the President and the Secretary of State said very clearly, we're coming in. And so we're glad they're coming in. We'll have questions. And now I think to the spokesperson's part, look, James Comer is setting a very new precedent here, where every demand that he wants has to be agreed to immediately. What we want is the truth for the survivors, and that's our focus.
So what does this look like? When do we expect them to appear, to talk, and what do your conversations look like with Chairman Comer about who's next and where this goes?
So I think one is the dates are being worked on between Chairman Comer and the Clintons. And so that I imagine that we will have a date fairly soon, and it'll be sometime in the coming weeks. They'll come in, there'll be a deposition by the Oversight Committee and members of the staff, which will be important. It'll be transcribed, and so that will be a full deposition and sit down with both the Clintons. Separate of that, and I think as important, is we have depositions coming up with the people that have known Jeffrey Epstein the most. That includes folks like Les Wexner, who of course was his longtime major associate. It includes folks like Richard and Dan, who was the attorney and the accountant for Epstein. And of course, Ghislaine Maxwell, which is going to be happening here in the next week and a half. Those are going to be all key conversations and depositions Oversight Committee is very interested in.
So how do you, on one hand, pursue that path while also keeping pressure on DOJ to release the documents that they have not yet released?
Well, I think, first, let's be clear, the White House cover-up of the Epstein files continues. I mean, you can't say you're only going to release 50% of the documents. 50% of the documents and say, oh, it's over, we've released everything. It's an embarrassment, it's shameful, it's disrespectful to the survivors. The survivors have come out against that. And on top of that, they're not even protecting the survivors in what they've actually released. So it's been completely botched. In addition, what's really important is Todd Blanche keeps saying, well, we have an ongoing investigation, or there's interagency communication, we're going to hold that information. That is not actually allowed in the subpoena that's been in place since the summer. There may be language in the law that was passed by Congress that speaks to those issues. There's a parallel effort and legal binding here as it relates to the subpoena. They can't make those declarations. They certainly can't withhold that from the Oversight Committee. So they continue to break the law, and the White House cover-up continues.
I feel like I have learned a lot about a lot of people with these Epstein file releases. I know I understand Melinda Gates a whole lot better now. Given how Bill Gates shows up, apparently the government released a tranche just dedicated to President Clinton. But I feel like I haven't learned enough about the sitting president of the United States and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and how he shows up. The New York Times yesterday, they identified, and they put an article up about this, they identified more than 5,300 files containing more than 38,000 references to Mr. Trump, his wife, his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida, and other related words and phrases in the latest batch of emails, government files, videos, and other records released by the Justice Department. Are we going to get some accountability from the president? What does the president know about Jeffrey Epstein that he has yet to tell us?
Well, we've shared with everyone, and I made this message clear to Mr. Blanche, is they might think their investigation is now over, but our investigation is actually just getting started. And so the amount of information that we have as it relates to President Trump, why there was so much trafficking in Mar-a-Lago and in New York City, why Jeffrey Epstein called Donald Trump his closest friend for over 15 years, why the accusations that were actually made and that we're seeing in the Epstein files, which are some very serious allegations, were actually not followed up by the FBI. Why is Trump's name being removed and then put back again, and then a picture appears and it's redacted? Why the games? And so the arrows point directly back to the White House and Donald Trump. Why the cover-up? Why say you're going to release the files and then basically try to stall the release? And now, why the heavy redactions? Why the games? And why were these allegations actually followed up on? And so the president can be rest assured that even though he thinks the investigation is over, that we have a lot of work ahead of us in the months ahead.
I think the entire public, I know you didn't even know what documents existed before the release by the Department of Justice, but they included in a statement, the DOJ did, when they released this initial tranche, saying, quote, some of the documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false, and if they have a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already. Where is your level of faith that the Department of Justice, not just this DOJ, but also previous DOJs, did their due diligence to go and try to corroborate and substantiate any of these allegations that the American public are reading in these documents?
I mean, two things. One is, it's crazy that the DOJ would write a statement like that. I mean, unprecedented. Completely just, clearly it's corruption. I mean, they're trying to cover for the president. They haven't made declarations like that for anybody else. So the fact that that's included should be dismissed as really pretty unprecedented and clearly part of a cover-up. Second, as far as past administrations, I think that's a good question. And in fact, I have oftentimes said, I mean, one of the folks I want to talk to is former Attorney General Merrick Garland. And why wasn't more released to the public? Look, there's a lot of powerful men.
Thank you, Ms. Fat.
And I could care less what political party they're in, who still right now have not been prosecuted, whose names have not been public. Who are the co-conspirators? Who are the men that raped and abused women? Why don't we have those names? We should not be satisfied until the public learns the names from our own government, who has the information about who actually caused the harm, the rape, and the abuse, and the trafficking. And until we get those names, we're not stopping until we get justice for the survivors.
It was pretty wild to watch Todd Blanche come out last week, indignant about any pressure to move faster or to release all the documents, really emphasizing the level of care that he believed the DOJ had given these documents. And then to learn that it's the New York Times that's catching some of these unredacted images, some of these unredacted names. When you've spoken with survivors, what have they said to you about the cost of being re-traumatized at the hands of their own government?
It's horrifying. I was talking to a survivor just yesterday. It's hard to actually explain the terror that they feel and the trauma that they're having to relive. And Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi have said time and time again that they want to protect the survivors. The Republicans have said they want to protect the survivors. It's complete bullshit. They've done nothing. They've done nothing
Not
to protect the
BS,
survivors.
Lord.
They continue to put their names out there. They continue to cause them harm. They should be incredibly careful and censor the violence that they've had to endure. And Todd Blanche continues to lie by saying that they're going to redact the names. They haven't done so.
All right. So we heard basically, and have stated how we feel. Let's hear from one of the survivors of Epstein on how they feel about what's going on with the Epstein files.
Abuse, pointing out missing redactions in the new files, including Danny Bensky, who says she was infuriated to see her own name, her own address, her own phone number unredacted.
I thought it was carelessness, and then I went to incompetence, and now it feels a bit deliberate. I feel like the Department of Justice has really made us feel unsafe.
An attorney for some survivors tells NBC News that she personally reported violations on behalf of more than 50 survivors so far. And in a letter describes some clients, Jane Does, who never planned on going public, who now say they're facing harassment and death threats. The DOJ in a new court filing writing it has worked, quote, all hours through the weekend from the point when the first victim-related concerns were raised, saying it's taken down thousands of documents that included victim-identifying information. I want to bring in now somebody who may be familiar to our viewers, Annie Farmer, a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. Annie, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Let me start with how you are doing after the course of the events of the last several days here. How are you feeling as we're hearing from some of your fellow survivors?
It's been a really heavy few days, and I'm at this point, I think I'm feeling really most of all angry about the way that this has unfolded. I mean, there's been a lot of information that's come out, some of which we really wanted to have light shed on, but the fact that it's been done in such, I'd say, beyond careless way, where people have been endangered because of it, is really horrifying.
Can you describe what your biggest concerns are with the way that this process has unfolded?
I just right now don't believe that the leadership at the DOJ had any intention of following through with what they told us over and over. There was so much lip service from this administration about protecting victims. But when you know there's been 40 images, nude images of potentially girls and young women that have been included, completely unredacted, and you see entire lists of victims that are completely unredacted, it's hard to believe this was anything other than that it was intentional.
That's a reference, of course, to the New York Times reporting, Annie, that found what they say were dozens of these unredacted nude images of young women, potentially teenagers. The Times says that they did report those images to the Justice Department. And as you heard, the DOJ says that it is working to take down anything that is not redacted and should be, and it has done so over the weekend. I wonder what it was like for you going through these files, looking at them. I don't know if you saw any of your identifying information of people that you know as you were looking through this.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I found my own, date of birth, my own phone number, but was also just really disturbed to see evidence of names of people that I knew did not want to be public, that were included, and also just like really, intimate details of people's lives that did not need to be included and were the kinds of things that the law outlined that said would not be included. So, and when something is out there in a digital way, they can take it down. But as we know, the damage has been done, and it's really upsetting.
Annie, do you feel protected by the government?
No.
What would you need to feel that way?
It's hard to imagine what this administration and this DOJ could do. I mean, I think right now what we want is them to follow the law and to be extremely responsive, to these things as they're brought to their attention. I know that they've made it, in some cases, really difficult, jumping through a lot of hoops to get these things addressed. So I think, I'm not alone in feeling outraged by this, and I hope that they feel that from the American people and that they respond accordingly.
What are your next steps here, then?
Well, my sister, Maria Farmer, filed a lawsuit against the government for negligence in this case. And really, as I see it, this is just further example of that, of the ways that we have not been protected in this case, and the DOJ has not done their job. So I think, continuing to fight and hope that we see justice in that case is going to be really important.
Annie, are you considering pursuing your own legal action here against the government? Is that an option that is on the table for you?
Well, I think everyone right now is exploring the options. But as I said, I think this is, there is a suit already that's kind of highlighting the negligence of the government here. And so, but I think we're discussing all options.
The Deputy Attorney General suggested over the weekend, Todd Blanche, when asked directly about the possibility of further criminal investigations as it relates to the Epstein case, referred back to that memo of July of last year in which the DOJ, the FBI, said that they did not uncover any evidence to warrant additional criminal investigation here. And I wonder, given, I know the fight that you and other survivors that we've spoken to have been going through over the course of the last many months and years, what goes through your mind when you hear the Deputy Attorney General say that?
I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed. And I think that he also said, now people can see whether we did our jobs or not. I think it's very clear. It's now on display for the world to see that they did not do their jobs. And you can find, I found myself Virginia Roberts Giuffre's testimony to the FBI in 2011, where she's naming other names. And I know that there's so many documents like that. What I didn't find was evidence of what they did to follow up and investigate those claims. And so until I see that, I think, I will be very confused about why no one else is being pursued in this case.
So then what do you want the world to know, Annie, about your fight and the fight for the women that I know you call your survivor sisters?
I want people to know that we will not be intimidated and we will not back down. down, that the types of connections that you're seeing that are being brought up in these files, the ways that power protected power, is why we have chosen to push forward together so hard, because we believe people need to understand that, and these people need to be held accountable.
Annie Farmer, we're so glad to have you today. Thank you very much for your time and for being so open about the process that you are going through. Thank you.
All right, so we heard from 2 survivors right here. Now their attorneys, one of the survivors or some of the survivors' attorneys have came out and spoke as well. Let's see what the attorneys have to say about basically the victims being doxxed and these new doc drops. Let's go.
Presenting multiple.
Oh, I think that's on my end. Hold on. It's most definitely on my end. Hold up real quick. Hold on. My sound went out. Hold up real quick.
The victims they were aware of, putting them into a search mode in an Adobe Acrobat platform, finding the victims' names and redacting them. And they didn't even do that. I was able to find them immediately in a matter of minutes, and they could have easily just taken the lists they had and redacted. This is absurd.
Brad Edwards, who is also a lawyer representing many Epstein survivors, is part of this legal filing that Scott and I were just discussing in New York. He wrote today about this: there is no conceivable degree of institutional incompetence sufficient to explain the scale, consistency, and persistence of the failures that occurred, particularly when the sole task ordered by the court and repeatedly emphasized by the Justice Department was simple: redact known victims' names before publication. Do you associate yourself with those comments?
I do. Brad is a good friend. We were in the trenches together prosecuting these cases back in the early, or late 2000s, 2007, 2008. And I can tell you, for example, here's an example. The first client I represented was victim number 1. She was the first girl to go forward to police in Palm Beach and start this investigation. And then subsequently, she was part of the FBI investigation that turned this entire case into what it is now. Her name was not redacted in multiple documents. It is patently absurd that the U.S. government is coming forward now saying that they're doing all they can. It just makes no sense. All they were doing was trying to make sure that these very powerful people were redacted from the files, and they did not care about the victims at all.
And Spencer, as I understand it, there are still pieces of information you believe are in the files that are relevant to the investigations or conversations about potential prosecution that are still under wraps.
Absolutely. I walked through Jeffrey Epstein's home during the prosecution of these cases and saw firsthand the cameras that he had mounted in his home here in Palm Beach, Florida. They have not turned over those surveillance footage, that surveillance footage they have. They also have not turned over the photographs that were in Jeffrey Epstein's safe at the time they executed the search warrant at his Manhattan home. Where are those pictures? Because those were the pictures that Epstein apparently wanted safeguarded and protected from anyone seeing until he wanted people to see them. That's what the victims want publicized.
Spencer, on behalf of your clients, do you want this website taken down until it is fixed?
Absolutely. I mean, it's unfortunate because my clients, along with many others, want this information for the world to see who is involved, but they also want to be protected. Some of these young girls do not wish to be identified, never have wished to be identified. So unfortunately, I don't know that they can unring this bell. Many news services like yourself and others around the world have already downloaded documents that could potentially damage these young girls yet again. This is just another failure by this government with respect to these poor young girls.
Scott made reference to some harassment that some survivors and victims whose names appeared have suffered. Has that been visited upon any of your clients specifically, Spencer?
Thankfully, not yet. Thankfully, they have not seen any danger as of yet, but for a certain portion of this population that apparently follows our president, regardless of what information might be out in the public, they have some very serious concerns. So they would like this information down immediately, merely run the list of victims' names through this system and redact them. It could literally take the government seconds to do what I did in 1 minute.
Spencer, I don't know if you heard the open to this show, but I said it appears the British are taking this much more seriously than we are. How do you evaluate that?
They are. They are. I was just on a call not too long ago with British media and discussing with them the connections between Andrew and Lord Mountbatten and the photographs that were disclosed. For example, the photograph of Andrew on all fours on top of a young girl whose face was blacked out.
Which I showed y'all earlier.
This is being taken much more seriously overseas, and people are losing their jobs, as they should, as a result of the connections to Jeffrey Epstein, long after it was known, by the way, that he was a sexual predator because he was convicted. These people still continue to socialize with him, and the UK government and people over there overseas are taking this very seriously.
Which is that picture I was telling y'all. I can only imagine what he was really doing.
And unfortunately, our government is not.
What's next, Spencer, and what would you need to see to have an indication from this Justice Department that it's more serious than your evaluation has been thus far?
They absolutely need to present a third-party, neutral person that can evaluate these materials independently, appoint a federal magistrate, appoint a federal judge, appoint a neutral third party that can go through this information and protect these young girls' identities. In addition to that, they need to put some type of penalty in the Epstein Transparency Act that provides for a private cause of action. There needs to be accountability because the Department of Justice just is flaunting this law and breaking it without any accountability. So provide for a private cause of action in the Transparency Act so that these victims can sue if the Department of Justice fails again in their job.
Spencer Kubin, I appreciate the time, sir, very much. Thank you.
All right, so yeah, man. I pretty much walked y'all all the way down through there, you know, with everything that I was able to find on this whole entire situation when it comes to the Epstein files, guys. You know, it's a lot going on, man. You know, it is most definitely a lot going on with these files. They say that they have dropped 3 million of 6 million documents, and we're not sure if we're gonna get the other 3 million, guys. Make sure you have double tap that screen, man. Everybody who haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. Double tap the screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, man. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. I most definitely showed y'all everything that's in the title as far as Trump name appearing in the new documents over 1,000 times, Elon Musk's name appearing in the documents, as well as Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein, man. You know, I let y'all hear from some of the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, his victims, their attorneys. You know, I gave y'all a full show, you know what I'm saying, all the way down through there. And if you just got here and you missed the Jay-Z portion, yeah, man, he's most definitely in the files. Check this out.
Right here from her home, whence she later awoke in the presence of Harvey Weinstein and Sean Carter, Jay-Z, while Weinstein had inserted his fingers into blank blank. Believed she was in Epstein's mansion in Florida. Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein in a three-way? Just like my previous post about Donald Trump, these are allegations, not facts. But
hold on, let me see if I can start it over from the top, guys. Hold on. Here you go, right here.
Breaking news, Jay-Z might be going to jail, y'all. Jay-Z was in the Epstein files. Alleged victim claims she was abducted and woke up in a room with Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein? Here is the official document, and you can see right here, from her home, whence she later awoke in the presence of Harvey Weinstein and Sean Carter, Jay-Z, while Weinstein had inserted his fingers into blank blank. Believed she was in Epstein's mansion in Florida. Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein in a three-way? Just like my
as well as Pusha T, guys. Yeah, man. So, yeah, it's a lot going on. Jay-Z most definitely found within the Epstein files, guys. You know, him and Pusha T are alleged of doing something crazy with Harvey Weinstein, man. You know, in a young lady. It's crazy how Jay-Z managed to get in the Diddy files as well as the Epstein files, guys. Well, that's all my time. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. You know, make sure you double tap that screen on your way out. If you haven't hit the like button, most definitely hit that like button. It most definitely helps out the channel, guys. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're new. Man, that is crazy, guys. Jay-Z, man, who would have ever thought? You know, who would have ever thought? Well, I wonder if he's gonna go full-fledged, you know, as far as to get his attorney to come out and speak on all of this like he did in the Diddy case. Yeah, man, I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all morning, man. You know, make sure you come back to see me. I do this on a daily basis, you know, covering the news that interests me. I hope it interests y'all. I hope you found out some things that you did not know, as well as expanded on some things that you did know. And with that being said, I'm going to make my grand exit. Sidewalk Gang, checking out. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be safe. I'm gone, man. Shout out to my new subscribers as well as the old subscribers. I forgot to say that. Shout out to my members. If you want to become a member, you simply go to my home screen and click join. It'll tell you everything that you need to know. Shout out to my moderators for keeping the chat rolling smooth. I know sometimes it get crazy down there, but I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Yeah, man. I'm out of here. Y'all enjoy y'all morning. I'm gone.